Chess against logic with a twist, as you can see with our Rubik's Cubes out. Since logic is way better at me than chess, and I'm better at Rubik's Cubing, we both have handicaps. Logic will have 5 minutes to make his moves, while I have 10. But the catch is we can't checkmate each other until we solve our Rubik's Cubes. So I have a 4x4 here, and Logic has his 3x3. You ready to do this?
Swag. Yeah, I'm totally excited. Okay, here we go.
5 minutes on the clock. Oh shoot, coming in strong.
What was your first memory playing chess?
I played when I was like a kid with like on the iPad.
Nice.
This is actually challenging, having a conversation and playing chess.
I learned how to play chess actually from convicts. My mother was dating a criminal. I went to it was called a pre-release center. So before you get out of jail. So I was there at like 7 years old learning how to play chess from convicts. I mean, I feel like chess it also really teaches you about yourself. And my biggest thing was patience or impatience or, always kind of like wanting to be quick and fast. And guess what? That's fun sometimes for sure. But if you want to really listen, learn, and grow, you have to take your time and you have to study your games after you play them. I really do love it. Like I said, it's taught me a lot about myself, which is really fun. Here's my question. What's your best time on a Rubik's Cube?
Just a normal one, 3x3, 5.3 seconds.
For real?
Yeah.
My best now, it makes me feel like it's nothing, is just under 20 seconds.
Oh, let's go.
Cubing for me is just super fun. I do it on planes when I take off. It's kind of like a ritual because I used to have a pretty big fear of flying. I would do it, and by the time I finish solving it, it's like we're in the air, you know what I mean? So that's why I like writing raps and writing movies and working just creatively, constantly keeping the mind going. It could be found as a type of distraction from reality, if you will.
Yeah, I love it too. Like cubing is so relaxing to do. It just gets your mind off of many things. Like, oh, we have both solved ours too. Focus on this chess.
For me, it was very much so. It's like a therapy. Like if I'm really anxious, I'll just sit down and play chess, which I love. There's your queen, by the way.
So in terms of your hobbies, like how do you balance your music career and your hobbies? Like you're a very busy person, so I admire like you're able to do hobbies like chess or cubing.
I think it's just like setting boundaries for yourself. When I was young, I sacrificed so much of my life for music. Check. Only got a minute left. And I wouldn't say that that's healthy, but at the same time, I think it is something that one needs to do in order to attain their goal, make it their everything. But now that I'm older, it's like, dude, I got kids and I want to be there for my family and my wife. So that's really more so just kind of my focus these days. Aside from trying to figure out exactly when to make that specific time for my mental health and my family, I find myself definitely engaging in cubing and playing chess. I'm like quintessential nerd. It's so funny. Like I have all these tattoos and I look like I'm in a gang, but when you look at them, it's just like Goku and Fry from Futurama and different stuff like that. It's pretty funny.
The cool tats.
Thanks, homie. Alrighty, mate.
Aw, dude, right on time. Let's go.
Yeah, but you crushed me. How fast did you solve your 4x4?
It was 8 minutes into my stuff.
What's your fastest time on a 4x4?
32 seconds.
Are you serious? Hold on. Okay, scramble yours and I'll scramble mine and we'll do like a true solve.
3, 2, 1, go.
Got it.
All right, there we go.
That's amazing. That's so dope. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm really happy that we could do this.
Yeah, for sure. This is a fun chess game with this nice cubing twist. It was fun. Thanks, Rubik's. Thanks, Chess.com.
Yeah, shout out Chess.com. Danny. Wow. Let's go.
Jan Nepomniachtchi may not have won a Division I CCT event, but only a few players can say that they did. What makes Nepo unique? He scored more points than anyone else who didn't take an individual first place. It helped that he was one of only 3 players to qualify for the first division of all 4 events. The others? Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja.
Magnus resigns. Nepomniachtchi takes it.
Third place in the Crunch Labs Masters was Nepo's best CCT performance. At first, he was disappointingly swept 3-0 by Carlsen.
Match over. Magnus Carlsen moves on to the winner semis.
Not only did Nepo recover, but he did so at Carlsen's expense, winning later in the tournament to knock out Magnus. Above all else, it was Nepomniachtchi's consistency that has him here in the live finals. By making it to Division I in every event, he was able to accumulate points, all the way to Oslo. The 2-time World Championship challenger, one of the best players of his generation, now a threat to win a Champions Chess Tour.
In the heart of Oslo, the chess world has converged to witness a clash of titans in the ultimate battle of wit, the Champions Chess Tour.
Oh my God! And Magnus cannot believe it!
From across the globe, the greatest minds of this ancient game have arrived. From the suburbs of Minneapolis to the cobbled streets of Paris, from the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains to the banks of the Rhine, the world is watching the Tiger City. At the helm stands Norway's pride and the tour's undisputed king, Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus Carlsen takes the win. He books his place in the final.
But the hometown hero can't rest easy. The two-time world championship contender, Jan Nepomniachtchi, is here to take Carlsen's crown.
This is some incredible form we are seeing by Jan Nepomniachtchi.
This is a battle of minds. Every move is a masterpiece in the making. It's the climax of the biggest online chess event of the year. The Champions Chess Tour final decides who is the king of rapid chess.
Oh my gosh!
He blundered me.
Oh my goodness!
It's the Champions Chess Tour Finals, live from Oslo, Norway, and it starts right now.
It's snowing in Oslo, Norway today for the final match of the 2024 CCT Finals. After 4 full days of action, 2 remain. And the storied rivalry between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi is in the spotlight. These two titans of the chess world will be fighting for the trophy right here on this very stage. I'm James Canty III, and I am joined with my favorites, Grandmaster David Howe and International Master Tanya Sachdev. Can we believe we're at the final already?
Wow, it's flown by this week, but it's been so fun hanging out with you guys, watching all the chess.
And just so many emotions, right? It's been a season-long tour, James, and it all comes down to today, right now, right here. Magnus taking on Jan, 2 big giants of the chess world, 1 crown to claim.
1 crown to claim it is. Let's take a look at that bracket, of course, to see what is going on. How did we get here? What's on the floor? What happened previous and future? Okay, here we go. So the finals here, semifinals. You see Magnus Carlsen beat MVL there 3.5 to 1.5 there. That was a crazy match there. Semifinals on the other side there was Alireza versus Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Jan was on fire, kind of just stormed right through that match. And now we have our final, Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. Reflecting on yesterday, what was some highlights, I would say?
Well, I'll start with Jan Nepomniachtchi. He was so impressive. He played quickly, he played confidently, and Alireza Firouzja struggled to keep up. Simply, when it came down to the time scrambles, Nepomniachtchi was on top. It wasn't always one-way traffic, but ultimately he got the job done.
Both impressive matches, but different narratives, right? What always impresses about Magnus is that even when he's not in his best shape and he feels that he hasn't played his best chess, he still gets the job done. But I think Jan Nepomniachtchi versus Alireza, a 3.5 to half victory. Jan was absolutely undeniable yesterday. Magnus Carlsen had some shaky moments, but I think this is a dream final that we've set ourselves up for. I'm really looking forward to an intense, epic battle today.
I'm excited for the battle too as well. We all are, guys. I mean, let's actually talk about this too as well with this Firouzja thing. What's the difference in Nepo's match against Firouzja? Was it a mental edge when placed in the hot seat? What do you think?
Yeah, we see overall more consistent, higher accuracy levels across those 4 games. 91.3 is a very decent average considering how complicated the games were and how much chaos Firouzja especially was trying to initiate. Jan always kept his cool, Tanya. He always had some element of control.
Yeah, and it always came down to the clock, right, for Alireza, because he got his kind of positions. He even got the advantage in a few games, but wasn't able to turn it in those clutch moments because he was playing on seconds consistently. So Jan played brilliantly on the board and very importantly kept it under control on the clock as well. And I think that losing game 1 for Alireza was absolute disaster. He just couldn't find his form after that.
And you know what, about Magnus, do you think his match yesterday actually kind of boosted his confidence? What do you think?
Well, he never gives much away, Magnus. He came to the studio yesterday with us. He was very honest, very brutal about his own chess there. He was saying he's still not quite at it, not quite bringing his best form, but getting the job done. Winning all 3 of his white games, by the way, against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, show that he's starting to move through the gears. I have a feeling he's going to bring his best today. He usually does when the stakes are high.
And it's also really fascinating how these 2 players have had these different narratives, right? Magnus, saying and being critical about his play, that it's not his best. But Jan, I mean, we've been saying this is the best shape that I've seen Jan in for a really long time. So what is it going to be when, Jan arrives on the board today? He's been on his A game throughout this final. And Magnus, though he gets the job done, he hasn't been very happy with the level of his play. And he said it yesterday in the interview, if he can step it up, then Jan's going to have a tough time today.
Magnus did say, of course, he was like, yeah, if I'm in my good form, it's going to be very tough for Jan there. But Jan is definitely going to try to bring it to Magnus here. They have been playing a long time here. In fact, these two have been playing for 22 years now. That's crazy to think about. All the way back at the World Under-12 Championship here. That's a long time there, David, huh?
It's been a long time. These two have known each other for years. They've been good friends. They've studied together. Nepomniachtchi, a former second of Magnus Carlsen, before they ended up playing that World Championship match. But this year on the tour, we see their head-to-head 5 wins for
Oh, David, you were there. Tell us about what happened here. Look at that. Young David. So cute.
Wow, this is a trip down memory lane. This was in 2002, the World Under-12 Championship. Jan Nepomniachtchi got the gold medal. He pipped Magnus to the post on the final day. Unfortunately, I had something to say about that. I prevented Magnus from getting the gold in the final round. I took bronze. There's actually some other strong grandmasters on that stage, including Dmitry Andreikin standing there in 4th place. But yeah, those were the days. That was actually the first year they ever played, those two.
And there were a lot of the other 90s kids in that event as well, right? World Under-12. Maxime playing?
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave was one of them. Other kids who weren't actually present, Sergei Karyakin, very strong player. Jon Ludwig Hammer, Ivan Saric. Some legends, real vintage.
And there are so many layers to the Magnus-Jan rivalry, right? We saw that incredible photo starting from that point in the World Under-12, going up to playing a World Championship match in 2021. And today another chapter gets added to their rivalry.
You know what? Magnus has had a great year in the CCT, winning 2 events, of course. And let's take a look at his journey as heading into this year's final.
Magnus Carlsen has never not won the Champions Chess Tour. Now he's going for his 5th straight title. Carlsen is in an unusual position this year. He's not leading the pack coming into the finals. He was, however, the only player to win 2 CCT events this year. In February, he claimed the Chessable Masters. Then in October, the Julius Baer Generation Cup. Carlsen also finished 2nd in the Chess.com Classic and 4th in the Crunch Labs Masters. He was fought valiantly every step of the way by Alireza Firouzja. In the Chessable Masters, Carlsen was initially obstructed by Firouzja in the grand final. But in the reset, a 2-0 sweep earned the Norwegian the victory. That wasn't even Magnus's closest call of the tournament. He needed Armageddon to advance against Vladimir Fedosiev. In the following event, the Chess.com Classic, Carlsen made the grand final again, but this time Firouzja got the best of him. In 2 Armageddon, Firouzja won 2 matches to swipe the title from Carlsen. Even so, for Carlsen, just 2 successful tournaments effectively guaranteed his spot in these live finals. He would have qualified even if he sat out the last 2 tourneys. But Carlsen didn't rest on his laurels, claiming another victory in the Julius Baer Cup. Once again, Firouzja was Carlsen's top rival. Carlsen swatted him away in the winner's final, but faced him once again in the grand final. This time, Magnus did not need a reset, just 1 more match, 1 more win, 1 more tournament. Ho-hum. Will we see yet another CCT Finals victory as well? As Carlsen demonstrated in his path through this year's Champions Chess Tour, he's always a threat.
It's important to know Magnus Carlsen has been doing nearly nothing but winning throughout his career. And the champion is looking for a 5-peat today. That's crazy to even say 5-peat. I didn't even know that was a thing. Have we seen this level of perfection over an event anywhere else in chess, David?
I mean, the guy, he's a winning machine. Eat, sleep, win, repeat is Magnus Carlsen's motto. Have we seen it before? We've got the stats right there, right? He's dominated the World Championship, Rapid and Blitz so many times. I think 5 times Rapid champion, 6 times Blitz champion, of course, 5-time World Classical chess champion as well. So it's what he does, Magnus, he only knows how to win. And when he has a setback, he also has the incredible ability to bounce right back. And I think that's a champion's mindset.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are crazy, right? He's literally won everything there is to win. Maybe not the Olympiad yet, but yeah, I mean, he is just a natural born winner, and he always saves his best for the finals, for the last games. He always levels up at the right moments. And yeah, I mean, Fischer, Kasparov, talk about them as much as you want as well, but Magnus, he's right up there with the very best.
Speaking of Kasparov, in fact, Kasparov said like Magnus is like a symbiote or like a he's like a mixture of Fischer and then Gary Kasparov with a little bit of Karpov, with a little bit of Like, bro, what is this? It's like creative player, but with Magnus. Basically what it is. And if you were to create a player, it would be Magnus, who can do virtually everything there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Magnus has won the Champions Chess Tour every year since its inception. It was the Magnus Carlsen Tour in 2020, and he's been the champion. He's looking for his 5th title. And Jan Nepomniachtchi, I have to say, he's got to be really hungry for this win, right? It will be his maiden title at the Champions Chess Tour. He wants to prove. He's got everything to prove. It's been an up and down year for him. And he's also got to be feeling that this is some of the best chess that he's been playing. So feeling that form, feeling that hunger, that motivation, I think it's going to be an epic clash and not an easy one, this one.
I agree, of course. As you know, we had a lot to talk about. Games are coming up soon, but we got Mike Klein over there with the live audience. What's the mood like over there, Mike? What are they doing over there?
Thanks, Canty. Actually, they're just right on cue. They're starting to cheer. It is a sold-out house. We've never known a world where Magnus Carlsen is not a CCT champion. Let me poll the crowd. How many of you are rooting for Jan Nepomniachtchi today? Okay, how many of you are rooting for Magnus Carlsen today? Okay, there's no surprise there. Now, let's just see. Let's get one fan's reaction. Hello, sir. What is your name?
Hi, my name is Nicholas.
And Nicholas, where are you from?
From Germany.
Are you also a Magnus Carlsen fan?
Yes, a little
Okay.
bit.
Let me ask you, how long would you wait in line for Magnus's autograph today?
2 days, maybe.
2 days, okay. I don't think the trip from Germany takes 2 days. I don't think Magnus is going to stick around for 2 days, but we'll see, and we'll see who ends up winning. So back to you guys in the studio.
How fun is that? How fun is that? They live, they're hyping there, man. I want to go sit in there and also commentate, but also talk and like vibe and just be in there with my friends and my buddies. Oh man, oh, it's awesome, right? All this week it's been so fun to see the live audience, right?
I love it. And, you know, we've got fans from all over, not just the home crowd here. We saw someone from Germany. I know back at our hotel, there are fans who've come from Italy as well to watch the finals of the Champions Chess Tour, to root for their players here who they really look up to. So it's really amazing to have that energy of the live audience come in. And I think the players know it. They feel it. And it really brings out the best in them too, as David.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a time maybe in Magnus's career where he struggled in Norway chess, for example. He said, you know, that glare of the expectation kind of weighed him down, didn't allow him to play his best chess. But these days, he really embraces it. He really thrives off the energy that the crowd gives. And home advantage on paper.
There he is. He got the same thing on. He not playing. Hopefully, he did change his clothes. But at the same time, we know he got that same sweater on. I would, too, if I was crushing it like Jan is. I'm not taking this sweater off at all.
It does say off, but he's not taking it off.
He's not taking it off, and he's got the chess on as well. And right now, he's ready. He starts, I think, with the black pieces for Jan. Magnus will start the best of 6 with the white pieces. How do you think that affects the matchup dynamics? Because it's a long play one. Starting with white, is that good for Magnus?
I think it is good for Magnus. Magnus does have this reputation as a slightly slow starter at the beginning of days, especially if he knows it's going to be a bit of a marathon. It takes Magnus a while to click into top gear to warm up fully. But the longer the match is, the more it tends to suit the higher rated player. When these two faced off in the 2021 World Championship, the first 5 games were all draws. Jan was fighting toe-to-toe with Magnus. If anything, Jan maybe had the better chances in those first 5 games. But Magnus eventually turned things around and, went on to cruise to victory.
Yeah, on the other hand, James, we've also seen Magnus start slow in these long matches. So perhaps having the black pieces in game 1 to find your rhythm, you know, to really get into the zone of things, that's got to be good for Jan as well.
It's got to be good for Jan. I mean, of course, he's an underdog here. I mean, even the audience is like, anybody rooting for Jan? And he's like, dang, is anybody here? Like, that's crazy. And now, of course, Jan didn't hear the audience there, but Jan knows what he has to do.
I don't think he cares.
I don't think he cares either, in fact. He's world championship twice. Of course, we have to put that in the past, as we talked about yesterday. But look at this. Look at the momentum. Only losing to Magnus and Alireza there, which those matches were actually, he said he didn't get crushed, which he's correct. In fact, he just lost the matches there. But then he went on to win everything and now has to face Magnus in the final.
And that was a really impressive storyline here, right? Apart from those 2 reds that we see, he went on a hot streak in the round robin, all play, all stage. And then absolutely undeniable in the survival. And then what a performance he had, a power pack performance in the semifinals against Alireza Firouzja. He's on a hot streak, David.
Yeah, 5 match victories in a row. That's a lot of green. But of course, it's number 6 that really matters. It's all about today, Jan Nepomniachtchi. And despite Magnus's home advantage, I think Jan having that mentality of him kind of breaking through this barrier, finally taking down the big boss of chess. I think that's going to be so motivating for him. And what better time than when you're playing confidently, quickly, and extremely well. He looks very pensive. I'm sure he's very well prepared. His openings tend to be spectacular. And yeah, everything's in place. All the ingredients are there for him to fight Magnus.
One of the key things today for Jan will be how much he's able to get an advantage on the clock. On the board, create those kind of Jan positions where, again, it's complicated, there's chaos, there are lines to be calculated. And if in those critical moments he can manage to get that advantage, a head lead on the clock, I think that will play a big role today.
Actually, Magnus himself said that yesterday in the interview. He said, I'm going to get in time trouble, is what he says. Like, that's crazy to even say, I'm going to be in time trouble, because he knows how fast Jan plays. And also, if Jan is in a good swing and he's able to get, Magnus in time trouble, things could actually happen. We've seen Magnus in time trouble before. We've seen him drop a few games here and there. So if Jan's able to, create some imbalances here by actually, playing fast, keeping the pressure up on Magnus, it could possibly be something for Jan.
And Magnus calls the arbiter. Do you think he's asking Judith, where is Magnus?
Where's Magnus at? I don't see him. I don't hear him in my headphones. Like, where is he?
He wants those tunes on. We've seen him really rocking out Jan during the games, maybe just getting the volume correct on his headphones. There we go. We had the conversation.
Yeah, just getting those volumes at right where he wants it, his comfort level. David, I'm thinking about that photo we had of you, Jan, and Magnus earlier on, on our show from the under-12. You got the bronze, Jan got the gold, Magnus got the silver. Looking back at that time, do you remember any particular? By the way, Magnus has arrived, and of course, the crowd goes wild.
And the crowd goes wild. Magnus versus Jan. Here we go, guys. You are ready. We're all ready for this 6-game match. Let's see what happens. We're ready to go. Magnus starts with the white pieces.
Wow. Big cheers out there.
Love it.
In the arena. Magnus will start with white. He'll get his music going. Or will he? That's the big question. We've seen him in the past. Dilly-dally, be hesitant about choosing any music.
It's when he doesn't, he can't decide, then he's just, I don't want any of it. It's just me and the chessboard.
Here we go.
So I think he's about to pick his playlist right now. Oh, he gets up, jackets are off, gloves gonna be off as well in this one.
And players are seated, and we're ready to go. But let's take a quick flashback of the 2021 World Chess Championship.
The first decisive game in more than 5 years in the classical portion.
Of course, I seek for revenge.
Oh, there they go.
Is it time?
To finish my statement, Magnus Carlsen is now the 5-time world chess champion.
Nepomniachtchi takes it. Danya, what a turn up. That turned around so quickly.
That's it. Magnus Carlsen does it. We have a winner. It is him. It was always going to be him. Magnus Carlsen, the undisputed king of speed chess, wins the Champions Chess.com Finals.
Here we go. It's time. Jackets off.
That gave me the goosebumps. Just watching their rivalry being played out there in so many epic moments. And once again, it's Magnus versus Jan for the championship.
Let's go! Oh, mid-game. Hold on, let me check. Let me get my song selection.
And this is the one we've all been waiting for, but Magnus keeping us waiting for his second move. He starts with the queen's pawn. Jan brings out his knight. Magnus pausing to choose his music. And what are we going to see? Is it going to be the Trompovsky attack, the London system? Ooh, is it be a Nimzo Indian? Queen's Gambit, still all of the options available. Is a Queen's Gambit declined?
A very solid opening by Black against the Queen's Pawn opening. It just keeps everything strategic, the fight a little bit more positional. But what Magnus has just played is the most played move. So Jan with a surprising tiny thing, and it's the Tarrasch variation. He strikes with c5, and this usually leads to a lot of tension in the center.
A lot of tension, but potential simplifications as we see one of the most solid variations. They call this the Berlin of 1d4, because often queens come off the board if white had pushed a central pawn there. This is actually a transposition to the c3 Sicilian with colours reversed. So something that Kanti here might be excited about, but in the meantime, very well trodden paths. Black has an isolated queen's pawn, but the rest of black's position, very active potentially. He's going to gain some time against the white queen now. Jan Nepomniachtchi, he might also kick back this bishop, first of all. And, OK, first looking off, just trying to recall his opening theory. Magnus tends to avoid these types of positions, at least in recent history. This is known to be extremely solid. Every player with the black pieces has been kind of adding this to their repertoire. But it shows that they're taking it so seriously. Pretty much their A-list openings now in use.
And a big imbalance already on the board, right? Jan Nepomniachtchi is going to have this isolated queen's pawn at the center of the board, which becomes a target for white to play against. The more pieces that come off the board, the more you go towards an endgame, it would favor the white pieces. And meanwhile, for Magnus, it's also a lot about getting the attack on the king's side when fighting against the isolated queen's pawn. So we'll see what kind of an opening this develops to. 8-6 hits the bishop.
And it's been a while since I've studied this one, but I believe you can actually take this knight. Of course, you can just retreat your bishop. There's only one trick in the position not to fall into. You cannot take this knight and then take this pawn with your queen. There would be a trap.
Really nicely pointed out. And I think, David, maybe you can show the end bit of that trap, why the pawn isn't hanging just yet.
While Magnus thinks he's pondering whether to retreat or take this black knight, if he were to now capture the black knight, this is actually a trap that I've used with success when I was about 5-6 years old. But queen takes pawn now. Looks like you're winning a pawn, but whoops, the defender of the queen is removed with a check. And of course, queen takes queen at the very end. This would be a huge, huge mistake. So I believe opening theory continues, bishop takes, and then you retreat your queen. You have a choice of a few squares. And there's still a lot of pressure on black central pawn a bit later. But Magnus is about to choose his move, it looks like. If he keeps the tension, he knows his queen is about to get hit anyway. So it's about whether you change the pace of the game or whether you're happy to step back. He does indeed trade off that knight and retreat his queen.
Trades do tend to favor the side that's playing against the IQP and the side with the isolated queen's pawn, looking for those tactics, looking for the attack, a one piece off the board, that knight which potentially could have jumped to the center of the board. But in return, Jan gets the bishop pair. He gets a really nice piece on that f6 square, one that cannot be challenged. The knight will come out next. And always, Magnus will have to watch out for a central d4 break, the d pawn moving one step ahead.
Yeah, in the meantime, it's a bit of a race, right? As you say, Tanya, if black gets this knight out, is able to move the queen and kind of centralize rooks, you're kind of supporting the central pawn, the isolated pawn. You're getting ready to push it forward, blow open the position, which will definitely profit the bishops. But white is very, very quick now. Next move, rook to d1, and Magnus will try and gobble up this pawn before Jan is fully ready. So, yeah, both players spending a minute or two here. Not the type of attacking position we were hoping for here, maybe, Kanti?
Yeah, it definitely boring, and to say the least. Definitely boring, at least from the black standpoint. Like, from here, I just hate these type of positions from black standpoint, because, I mean, you're just kind of holding. Yes, you are playing Magnus, but you do want to at least fight a little bit, too, as well. Like, here, I just have an isolated pawn. White has a very easy plan. Rook f to d1, rook a to c1. And, I mean, this is just Magnus's forte. It's already happening. Rook f to d1, rook a, c1. We just got a great, easy game to play. I mean, even knight b5 to d4. Of course, they say, who is this Boris Spassky? It says the most important square for the pawn is the square in front of it. But okay, you know, that's what you had. The square in front of the pawn is the most important. He plays knight d4, right? So, of course, you blockade the pawn. You go bishop f3. You trade some pieces. I have a pawn on d5. I can play this game forever. Magnus is very comfortable.
Magnus is very comfortable, but key moment. If there's a trade on black's terms, if black gets one more move now and takes the white knight, then white will be forced to agree to an isolated pawn of his own. And that is not, I think, what Magnus wants. So a bit of a choice. Either he supports his knight in the center, or he trades off one of these two pieces.
He does take the bishop off the board. And that's a bit of a non-standard decision, because you allow Jan to recapture with the pawn. A pawn is a pawn's best friend, supporting that d5 weakness, and Jan goes for it. And now there's mobility in the center. Also watch out for Jan's knight jumping forward. Ideas of knight e5, eyeing the c4 square in the air as well. David, how do you evaluate this structural change?
Well, I think long-term, very much a gain for black. But look at this. Short-term, white has some tactics. Knight to e4. Magnus's idea. There is a pin. on the central file. The black queen would be vulnerable if you take this knight. This knight is poisoned. White is attacking the queen twice with the queen rook, and only defended once. So the pin allows the white knight to jump forward and capture a bishop. So now it's actually bishop versus knight. I'm inclined towards the bishops in open positions, but black has a very harmonious structure, no real weaknesses now. Everything covered. Queen and knight work quite well together, so I think Jan has reason to be happy too. Now we see the fans.
Love it. The live audience here. It's a packed house, as Mike said earlier. A full house here on the final day of the Champions Chess Tour, Season 24. We'll have a champion at the end of the day, a best-of-6 marathon between these two players. And it has been a lot of trades, a bit of a slow game, but not toothless just yet, right? Because of the big imbalance that you pointed out. A bishop versus the knight. And usually when you've got so many pawns scattered over the board, Magnus with 2 pawn islands, a healthier pawn formation compared to Jan's 3 pawn islands, it gives Magnus just a little something to play for. He can just keep the game going.
That's right. Fewer islands are always better. I mean, Norway has plenty of islands here, so I'm not sure how true that is off the chessboard. But yeah, essentially black has 3 pawn islands, 3 sets of 2. And they could be weaknesses. I mean, I'm only looking really at one square. I think this is the one Achilles heel in the black position. For now, it's nicely defended. But yeah, long term, there's quite a few pawns on light squares that could fall victim to the white bishop if the queens ever disappear.
But the good part about putting the pawns on the light square, the same color as your opponent's bishop, is that you restrict the activity. He's taken away a b5 square. And I think Jan also has ideas of planting that knight once again to the center of the board. And then perhaps pushing the b pawn and then going further in with that knight to that c4 square.
Yeah, clearly Jan wants to do something active in the next few moves. What does Magnus have up his sleeve? Pawn to b4. He strikes on that flank first. And a bit of a face from Jan, a bit of a frown. That's a bit surprising, I've got to say. It felt like white should be playing in the center, maybe trying to improve the bishop, but perhaps it's aiming to develop that way. Pawn to b5 was the idea, hitting the black knight. The knight moves preemptively. And it's all about that square you mentioned, Tanya. Ooh, this... Okay, queen to d4. I was going to say, if black gets one more move, pawn to b5 and planting the knight into c4. Maybe he should do that anyway now. But that looks like a stallion more than a knight right now.
And it looks like you have that move, that opportunity to do it right now, right? Push that pawn to b5, and he's trying to evaluate what happens once Magnus plants that rook on the dark square. That rook goes to c5, and who does that favor? Also, a move like b5 invites perhaps the white queen to jump forward onto the board. You've created some weaknesses on the queen side. Queen a7, hitting that pawn on a6. How easy or difficult is the decision to push the b pawn right now for Jan?
There's no easy decisions right at this level.
Not against Magnus, anyway.
Not against Magnus. Okay, whose position do you guys prefer right now?
I actually like white because of the bishop. I am just a fan of bishops, and I know that generally positions do open up. So that would favor the bishop here. I do like this idea, too, of rook c5 at some point. I can expand with a4. The knight is a slower piece, so I'm a fan of the faster play. So if b5 does happen, I always have a4 up my sleeve to really loosen that. Obviously, if ba, we go bishop takes a6. We get a free b pawn that's passed as well. So I feel like white has maybe, slightly better pool, of course. Engines like, 0.62 for white here type thing. So knight d7, though, I like it. Nice trades from Jan here. Just playing a position, trying to improve is what we're always trying to do in our games. And when we're playing is improve our pieces. Did he just go back 95?
Yeah, that's
automatic.
That's a silent draw offer from Jan right now. Magnus has the option to come back with the bishop and repeat the position once. Will he do it?
Yeah, if Magnus retreats his bishop, which is about to get traded off, I think knights and bishops disappearing would lead to total equality. If it's just heavy pieces, neither king is too weak, kind of both challenging for the c-file, that looks roughly equal. But yeah, it's a tough decision. I think I would bring back the bishop and then laugh and say, no repetition for you. I'll try something new. But of course, there was tension between the queens as well for a moment.
Yeah, and that's also sort of the Soviet school of chess, right? When you can repeat, do it once, do it twice, but don't do it the third time. Let your opponent get the false feeling that you're happy with the draw and then snatch that feeling away. So Magnus, will he go for that? But if this does end right now, if this was a 3-4, he does repeat it. Jan comes back, big moment for Magnus, right? Because if this ends right here, right now, game 1, I think that's a bit of a more draw for Jan than it is for Magnus. With the black pieces, without any problem at all, a confident hold in game 1.
A professional approach, right? You know, win with white, draw with black here. If I'm Magnus, okay, you know what? Maybe take the draw here because it is very equal. But of course, you could push maybe with Queen A7.
I think he plays on. Predictions before we go into lines.
100,000 on 100,000, Tanya. Let's go. I'm gonna say he plays on.
I said he plays on.
Oh.
Oh, he does play on.
Well,
Of course he
even,
plays on.
Even.
No draw yet.
Man, that's funny. Well, guys, you can guess the move and get involved as well. To download Take. We've been talking about it all week. You better have the app. Let's go get it. Make sure you download Take and experience the chess fandom like never before. Visit go.chess.com/takex3 or use exclamation point take in chat.
Yeah, and anyone guessing that Black's knight would just yo-yo back and forth between the d7 and e5 squares, I mean, they deserve to win this Guess the Move competition. But yeah, in the meantime, Magnus trying to open up the queen side. There will be targets on that flank. I really like what Magnus is doing. Of course, the evaluation bar does not flinch. It says totally level. But Black might have to show some accuracy in the next few moves. There has been this trade. Jan has burned a few tempi. Just anytime you start kind of rotating your piece like this, just bringing it back, forward, going for the draw, you do tend to kind of lose focus on the bigger plan. And I'm not sure what exactly he's been trying to achieve, Jan Nepomniachtchi. The black queen now might need to start switching flanks. She might need to drop back. That's a big weakness on the b7 square. And Magnus, okay, I was going to say, he's going to switch his attentions. He's now most likely going to move his queen away out of the attack of the black knight and indirectly start attacking the isolated pawn. It's like, oh, wow.
Is he going to sack the queen?
Quick decision.
Where?
Rook c4? Rook c4, rook d2, rook c8, rook d2. I mean, it's possible, but that's crazy.
He does it.
Oh, my goodness, Magnus out here going crazy, big dog. I was just playing, but I wasn't.
Look at the blue arrows.
Ooh, oh, my.
Whoa! That's the only move. He can't take the queen.
The crowd going wild. Oh, he's sacking his queen. I don't know why. You know, for people.
The fans are just pre-moving. They're pre-moving for when he plays queen takes pawn.
No, queen takes f2 is crazy. I saw this rook c4 idea to play on, reminiscent of the game 6 of a world championship, where he sacked his queen there in the Catalan game and won. So rook takes c4. I was like, yeah, I guess he can do it. And you are playing for 2 results there, but queen f2 is crazy though. That's a move.
Yeah, I mean, nice spot there, Kanzi. Rook takes c4. It wasn't on my radar at all to sacrifice the queen, but I think we have to show this.
This is it.
Oh, my goodness. Now I'm just up a pawn. It's a dub.
Wow. I think we have to backtrack and show what Jan Nepomniachtchi missed there, because that was a crazy moment. And it was here. Rook takes c4. It looks like the white queen is attacked and has to move, but nope. He ignores this. If you take the white rook, the white queen takes the black rook on d8, and Magnus would be a pawn up. But likewise, if you take the queen, rook takes rook is a sufficient zug, a sufficient shuck, and in between check there, attacking the king. And at the very end, it would be 2 rooks versus a queen. White has also won a pawn in the process, totally winning, as we see by the eval bar. But queen takes f2, such a difficult move. I think this would have needed a shower of gold coins on the board if it had been played. The idea is queen takes queen. It's actually black who gets the 2 rooks for the queen with a check first, and ultimately a level-ish endgame. And instead, after queen takes f2, king takes. Now you lure the white king out with a check, and ultimately a drawn rook and pawn endgame with equal number of pawns. But look at what Magnus is doing. Let's catch up with the game, because after rook to a8, he isn't happy sacrificing the queen once. He sacrifices it a second time with rook to a4, and we're going to see this endgame now. Wow, rook and pawn endgame, but white has this extra pawn on the king side. Is this enough?
Yeah, that's the big question, but Magnus will play this on forever. And I want to just come back to what James, you mentioned. Game 6 of their World Championship match, Magnus sacrificed the queen for a rook and a minor piece and went on to win that game. And that pretty much decided the whole match, right? Yeah. And here he's sacrificing his queen again. And for Jan, these are moments that don't leave your head. Those flashbacks keep coming back. Yeah. But queen takes pawn, he did pause. I thought he was about to find that move. But it's so hard to understand how important that was. And there was nobody tapping him on the shoulder and saying, hey, this is the moment you equalize. And by the way, it looks like Magnus is doing Magnus things. The pawns have disappeared on the left side of the board, but Magnus wants to create connected passers right now on the right side. What do you think about this last move, liquidating further?
H4 is a nice move. If this pawn is captured, the white rook will slide the whole way across to the right side and regain the pawn. Black's pawns are too weak. I just want to mention as well, I've won this exact endgame before against Gukesh. 4 versus 3 with pawns on the same side, but black's isolated e-pawn is such a huge weakness that it's actually going to force the black king to kind of decide. You have to defend the h-pawn, the e-pawn. It's not easy. And ultimately, he was so scared of the white h-pawn stepping forward and locking the king side there, Jan, that he did decide to trade off pawns. But this is so difficult to defend. I don't think Jan's going to be able to. Magnus is able now to play around for 50 moves. Black has 2 isolated weak pawns. White's 3 are connected. And yeah, this is, I think, even objectively, perhaps lost already.
Yeah, I mean, getting a first game dub in, a first round lead for Magnus would be absolutely disastrous here, you know, for Jan. He had to keep it solid, and he was so close. He had to find that one tactical element in the position, a tough spot, but queen takes pawn, a beautiful one, a missed opportunity there right now. And we see the bar. It says that this is close to a winning advantage for White. And we're talking about an endgame. You know, the Magnus touch, the golden touch that he has in these positions. It's going to be a miracle if Jan survives this now.
It's just going to be suffering for the next 30, 40 moves for Jan Nepomniachtchi. He might be dancing around, look at his head go, listening to some music, but I think that's just to hide the
pain
terror.
Inside.
Exactly. Terror of having to defend this against the world's best ever endgame player. Magnus improves his king, defending his pawn, freeing up the white rook now to improve itself. Slides up.
That's it. And at some point, he'll start advancing the f-pawn up the board, combine the king with pushing the pawns, rolling them up with the threats along the lateral 5th rank, putting pressure on black's pawns. He first improves the position of the rook. Okay. And it's a good idea, right, to play slow. You don't want to rush with pawn moves here. You can play another 100 moves, improve everything, tire your opponent out, bring him down on the clock, and then make one pawn move.
Exactly. Just only start setting the traps for the opponent when they're down to 30 seconds left. However, Magnus does push his f-pawn. I think this is part of the plan. Part of the winning plan. Actually, sooner or later, the white king might try to snake around using the h-file to walk up the board there. Also, the white rook is going to step 1 square further forward just to pin black's pawns on the 6th rank to the black king. Oh, this is going to be so difficult to defend for Jan. So many questions to answer. He's down to 2.5 minutes. Equal time for both players. But Magnus, this is, I think, the dream first game for him. Often in one-on-one matches, especially these long 6-game matches, you just want to apply pressure, 0 risk, show that you're in the ascendancy.
And it felt like Jan had done everything right out of the opening. You know, he traded the pieces off, kept his weakness under control, activated his knight. But in those tactics, which we often talk about as Jan's biggest forte, as his biggest strength, that's when the mistake happened.
Yeah, tactics and a little bit of maybe psychology there too as well. I'm in an equal position here. I wanted, I played for the draw. I wanted to. They say, how do you play for a draw? It's play for a win. Maybe look to be a little bit more active there. He was very comfortable getting the draw there after 95 back to d7. Then looked for a little bit, okay, knight c4, then missed the tactic. If he would have probably maybe thought, even just maybe another 30 seconds, maybe he would have chose a different move there and allowed Magnus to get, this very comfortable position now. Up a pawn, I'm going to milk this. I'm just going to play very slowly, wait for that mistake, and then, hit him with Devereski, page, 237, and somewhere in the middle of the book in those 4 Rookham game chapters.
He's about to hit him with an f5 if you're not careful, with black just pinned on the 6th rank, forcing the black king to fall back, which would mean the white king would move forward if you try to unpin yourself from the threat of f5. Jan feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, look at that evaluation bar. The advantage has been growing move by move. Magnus was hinting at getting his king forward. The black rook and king just preventing the white king's advance. But this tension, this pin on the 6th rank is so hard to deal with, so painful. I think f5 is just guaranteed next. And white is ultimately going to trade off his g-pawn for the white e-pawn. White's 2 connected pass pawns in the center are likely to win this game. Black's h-pawn just irrelevant here, just doesn't help at all. And Jan, he's looking away from the board right now. I think he's fighting the urge to resign. 1 minute left.
Yeah, he doesn't want to continue the suffering right now. And like you said, regardless of anything black does, white is getting those central connected pass pawns. He gives a check, the king will fall back. And now black has to move back with the king against the idea of f5, but f5 on the board. Expecting that to happen, or will Magnus just play around a little bit, enjoy his position, shift the rook, shuffle?
I think both strategies are viable here. You can shuffle, you can wait, but pawn to f5, played by Magnus Carlsen, is the most direct attempt to win. He wants to get 2 connected pass pawns together. A trick there from Jan, a deflection tactic, but ultimately this capture comes with a check. White's going to be 3 pawns up Yes, the pawns are a bit ugly, separated here, not connected, but this is more than enough.
Look at the speed with which Magnus is playing. It's like he studied these endgames when he was 3 years old. He's got them at the back of his hand. He has barely taken any time to think of a single move or the plan forward. And he's played it to accuracy. You know, you don't see the bar going down even once. Not a single inaccuracy in this endgame by Magnus. All best moves.
This is his
That's
favorite
how
thing
good
to
he
do.
is.
Yeah, he just loves playing these endgames here too. It's also, they say in the endgame, it's easier to calculate, but it also takes a lot to calculate because there's so many moves that can be played here. Rather than a middle game where you have a few options, you calculate those. But in the end game, there's lots of options, but it also is a lot of calculation as well. We got these extra 2 pawns here. This one's a clean one. Very easy for Magnus.
Yeah, and for the black king, it's caught in 2 minds here. He will have to stay in the center of the board with his king, Jan Nepomniachtchi, because of white's e-pawn. But ultimately, one of the 2 pawns is going to act as a deflection. One is going to decoy the black king and rook away. And then it's going to be the other pawn that wins. Magnus just choosing which pawn to bank his hopes on. He's pushing them both in tandem here. The white king cut off temporarily, but it can start moving across.
You could also move the h-pawn now 1 step forward. A capture on that, and then there are checks to answer as well. So he could go for tactics. He could go for a slower approach right now. Either way is Magnus Carlsen making this look clinical. He's making it look easy. Let me tell you, if I had this position with the white pieces, I would have bungled it up into a draw a long time ago. But just the way he plays, and he goes for the idea of 8-7.
Yeah, I only see one trick here for Jan Nepomniachtchi, that is to run the black king into the corner somehow and hope for stalemate. Hope to give up the black rook, a kamikaze rook as they call it, as long as there are no checks. But ultimately, Magnus will not fall for that one. And what to even play here? I'm expecting him to bring his king across to stop that white h-pawn. Of course, if you take that white h-pawn, you get skewered. The white rook steps up to the 7th rank with a check, a rook trade, and it will be game over. Okay, Jan does guard the pawn with his king. Magnus...
Oh, this idea. Maybe he goes like... Oh, he goes check first. Okay.
Ooh.
6.
Goes forward with the king. I thought he'd go into the corner and hope for stalemate there. But now black is frozen. The pawns are coming.
I think he's about to resign. How do you even answer this? You've got to go king to f6, closer to that e-pawn. The rook holds the h-pawn. The king holds the e-pawn.
Oh, you just go e7, I think. e7, this is a nice move.
Yeah.
If king f7, you can queen and then rook check, which is nice.
Tactics everywhere.
Or even rook check.
Even with 3 pieces on the board.
Yeah.
Love it, James.
Very nice.
And we might see queen versus rook if Magnus pushes his e-pawn right now. He'll promote, but black might be able to grab some material in the meantime. We see a check. White king forced back.
Oh, 10 seconds for Magnus, though. I think we're going to have the king and queen versus king and rook.
There it is.
It's happening. But the rook is going to be very disconnected from the king. Will Magnus find a way to...
He played that move with 2 seconds left, by the way. And Magnus, he was thinking about promoting to a knight with check, but it didn't quite work. And now the black king and rook so far apart.
And there can be dangerous checks that end up winning the rook, and he's got to get the black rook close to the king.
He's getting jumpy, Magnus. He's made a couple of moves now with 1-2 seconds left on his clock. He made the last move with 1 second left. And, okay, he pins the black rook. He's closing in, but there are some stalemate tricks here. If you walk too close, you need to keep your queen and king and knight move away from each other. That tends to be the trick. Magnus just trying to gain time on the clock, though. Very professional.
And he's managed to get those extra couple of seconds. He's also moved his queen far away, so no ideas of stalemate just yet, but that's the one trick that white has to be careful about in these positions, as Jan tries to achieve those setups by getting his king to the corner.
Yep. Oh, Jan leaning back. He knows that the net is closing around the black king. He has to cut him off on the 6th rank here. But there we go. Checkmate imminent. Jan resigns. Magnus takes the first win.
That was awesome. I mean, Magnus actually played an incredible game during, obviously opening, middle, and in-game here, but Jan had some chances. I think the knight c4 was obviously a blunder there, giving Magnus exactly what he was looking for, just a little bit of something. I want something from this game, and Magnus got that after the knight c4 mistake from Jan.
Instead of
And
yeah. But also winning, I guess. Yeah, of course. But crazy.
I just got that last word, crazy. It was a crazy moment in this game when Magnus sacrificed the queen. Jan had the opportunity to nullify that with a counter queen sacrifice. He missed it. But to me, from a psychological aspect, I think the game turned around, James, the moment Magnus refused a repetition.
Absolutely, of course. I mean, and then the mindset there is like, you know, you play, if you want to draw, you have to play for a win. Of course, Jan already knows this too as well. He is playing Magnus there, and then of course he tried to play a little bit more, played knight c4, and literally blundered like 2 moves later. After knight e5, going knight c4, dropped the pawn, couldn't find queen f2, Magnus wins.
Yeah, and for Jan Nepomniachtchi, a tough start to the final here. But he has been bang on form this whole week, so still plenty of time to launch a comeback. And yeah, I think that was just basically a demonstration of why Magnus has been the king of the Champions Chess Tour over the last few years. It's always in the end game that he turns the screw. Very impressive technique.
And so far, Magnus has been critical about his play, but I think this game one, the action that we saw from the world #1, and look at that, the reactions that we saw from the fans as well. I think that was brilliant stuff, you know, coming out of an opening where Jan seemed to have neutralized. Magnus had that little edge, kept pushing, kept playing, found the tactics when they were there, and made the rook-pawn endgame look so clinical, and eventually a flawless conversion right there.
Very nice, of course. It was just a lot to unpack in the game, and it was very boring and just slow and grind, you know, grind like a grandmaster. Go get David's book if you don't know. David and Magnus made that book together on Chessable, but it's awesome to see from both sides here. Jan did put up a fight, but he definitely, you know, missed some shots there, I think. So what do you think? What do you have for us, David?
Yeah, let's break down that key moment where Magnus just tricked Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Jan was unable to find the tricky tactic to stay alive in that game, ultimately having to suffer in that rook ending. And it was here that Jan, as black, was already under a little bit of pressure. Magnus has denied a draw, a repetition of moves just a few moments ago. And it was here Jan put his knight on c4. I was expecting the white queen now to move away. But Magnus, he actually captured this knight. Knight to c4, by the way, a very natural move. But Jan had missed this one. Instead of the white queen having to move now, rook takes pawn, a beautiful queen sacrifice, relying on the trick that if the queen drops, white flicks in a check first of all, gets one black rook, and then gets a second black rook with a big material advantage, 2 rooks and a pawn for the black queen. Instead, however, there was a hidden resource for Jan. The blue arrow reveals it here. The computer points out a very tricky resource. Queen takes f2 check, luring one of the white pieces to a vulnerable square, either queen takes queen with a rook capture, or instead there would have featured potentially king takes queen on f2, now a check, and now the same rook endgame we saw in the game, except now it's 3 pawns versus 3 pawns on the same side. Ultimately, just a few moves down the road, we saw the pieces fly off the board, and this rook endgame was simply winning for Magnus Carlsen. The fact that the black e-pawn was isolated decided everything. It was too weak, and Magnus showed perfect technique. Go study that one at home.
That was nice. Of course, thank you, David, for going over those moves. And if you want to guess some moves at home, we're going to introduce you to Take, Take, Take. Guys, you know what it is. Of course, it's Take, Take, Take. Go get the app, right, of course, and download it so that you guys can actually do the same thing. Guess some moves there. Use exclamation point TakeX3 in chat, or go to go.chess.com/TakeX3. Let's go. All right, now, Magnus Carlsen leads the match 1-0 after a convincing first game. We have Mike Klein, who caught up with Magnus after the first game. Let's go talk to him.
We're here with Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen, who wins again as white. Now, you've played Jan Nepomniachtchi on the world's biggest stage, the World Championship. How does this compare to that?
No, it was, you know, nice to have a little bit less time than them, but I think overall it was a very tough game, but obviously he made a couple of slight mistakes and then got some chances, and eventually I took them.
And the public wants to know, you have this rook and pawn endgame, which you just played almost flawlessly. Has all your rook and pawn studying come in the past, or are you still studying rook and pawn endgames?
I check them once in a while because it's useful and I find it interesting as well. But I mean, at one point, like I could have taken with the rook instead of the pawn, which I'd seen previously, and then I just forgot about it. Yeah, I mean, all of us make mistakes. These endgames are really tough, especially this one. There are always these stalemate tricks where you can take my pawn, so I gotta keep like the king to the side of the pawn instead of right behind it. So it's it's quite tough.
And finally, queen versus rook. I can't beat it against Stockfish. You ever practice that against the computer?
Well, the funny thing is I actually held it against Jan with the rook in the Champions Chess Tour once, but I was just like, I think in my mind I'm still a bit used to these time controls where we have like 5 or 10 seconds increment, because I'm still thinking that I can play sort of slowly when I have no time, and then I'm realizing, well, I have 2 seconds. There's no time. But no, I'm not sure I can beat Stockfish, but I'd like to think I'd have a good chance.
I like to think so too. Know your end games, kids. Back to you in the studio.
Know your end games, kids. Of course, no, it is good to study those end games. And Magnus, you know, he's like, yeah, I like to check them because I just studied all of them. So now I like to just check them and like make sure I'm still fresh.
Yeah, but how crazy it is that Magnus just told us that he actually saved this exact same endgame against Jan Nepomniachtchi, having the rook against the queen. So the guy can win when he's got the queen against the rook, but also save with the rook.
Yeah, trust me, I've tried winning that one against the computer. It's not easy at all. The computer always finds the only square far away from the black king that you put the rook, you can't quite win it, and it does get frustrating. But in the meantime, of course, Magnus showed clinical precision to convert that advantage. He looked in good spirits. It's no coincidence that he won that endgame quite flawlessly. A lot of study has gone on over the years. And biggest surprise is that he's at the board first.
This might be, you know, I was actually thinking that too, like how would I approach the match if he won against Magnus? I would just show up after him, like start there, you know, start there, show up after he does.
Flip the script.
You know what I mean? And then see what happens, you know.
Oh, but they look like they're in good spirits, both of them. I haven't seen Jan smile.
Guess it worked twice, yeah? No, second time a rook.
No, rook on a4 tricky already,
yeah.
Rook is hanging. But once is enough.
And I believe they were still discussing their game one.
Still discussing game one. And actually, I think they were talking about that tactic, that queen takes f2 type of tactic that was missed by Jan Nepomniachtchi and wasn't possible on a second opportunity a bit later. But this shows that the players, they do analyze their games between, even despite these short breaks. But now game faces back on for game two.
And this is a big one, right? Because Jan starts with the white pieces. He has to try to create his chances in this one. Every white is absolutely essential, and you need to maximize the opportunities that you get against Magnus. Because, and we're off. A draw in this one means Magnus gets white in the next pieces. So we've got the king's pawn opening. Magnus trying to keep it solid. Replies with the same. And we've got the Italian game.
Okay, the Italian game. This was also debated in their 2021 World Championship match. There was a really fascinating battle there where Magnus ultimately, after maybe a slight disadvantage in the opening as black, did turn things around a bit later. But, okay, Jan brings his bishop out. This is known to be the most ambitious way to play with white. You pin the black knight and basically ask the opponent to come at you. Pawn to g5 is objectively maybe the best idea now or on the next few moves for black, but Magnus doesn't really like weakening himself in such a committal manner. So I think great psychology, great choice by Jan Nepomniachtchi here, forcing Magnus to think early.
And perhaps provoking him into those imbalances that would happen if Magnus overexpands on the king's side. He denies it for right now, but also notice how he's delaying his own shot castle. So he keeps the option of g5 in the air. He keeps that threat. And right now, he also wants to plant the light squared bishop to offer a trade to that Italian bishop on c4. Bishop to e6. If it's traded, the queen can recapture, unpinning itself.
And in the meantime, Jan Nepomniachtchi gains space on the queen side with tempo. Here, massive threat, of course, to catch the black bishop. That would be a trap. So the blue arrow appears yet again, saying black should fight for space. Of course, Magnus does indeed challenge the white queenside structure, but now a bit of a loss of time. Black's going back in order to go forward. The e6 square may be a launch pad for either the light squared bishop or the knight right now. And, okay, this is shaping up to be a really tense battle. All pieces, all pawns still on the board. And Magnus jumps forward with his knight.
He jumps forward and he's also clearing the path for his king to perhaps at some moment go castling on the queen side, which would allow that g-pawn moving forward twice with tempo, the h-pawn joining the attack, and it just comes with a lot of power play because if we notice on the left side, there's already been a bit of a closed pawn formation. Getting an attack, getting a break is not easy for white there. Magnus's king might find safety on that side of the board.
Okay, prediction time. Where are the kings going? White's king is committed. What do we
I think queen side. I would say queen side.
Queen side for Magnus here, of course. I mean, because you can go bishop d7 and g5, knight h5, knight f4 stuff. You even go f5 after you castle queen side. You can literally see the potential for a very big attack for Magnus here after bishop d7, g5, knight h5. One of the knights go to f4. You may not even need to castle yet. Obviously, you know it's probably good to castle, but it's just very nice. It's very quick. It can happen like this. And knight on e6 is I'm not used to seeing here so quickly. So this is why it really stands out to go for this idea.
Do you think something's gone off in Magnus's head here? He's saying, okay, castling kingside, the white king now has pretty much set out its stall and is begging to be attacked. It's like a red rag to a bull, right? You castle, allowing a pawn storm like this. Look at the eval bar, everyone.
He's about to do it.
Ooh.
You can tell his hesitation. He doesn't play like that, you know, but he's like, I got to do it. You're right, David.
Yeah, apparently a massive advantage for black already.
I think it's going to be on the board. Magnus will play this. He can go all solid, getting his king to the king side right now, but we'll know about his ambition with the black pieces if he touches and moves that g-pawn 2 steps ahead. And that will be fire on the board, because Magnus Carlsen will be on the attack.
Eye tracker, he's looking at that side of the board. He brings his knight in instead. And yeah, he's getting ready. He's not committed yet. But okay, a flank attack incoming. The advice is to fight back in the center. That's what Jan Nepomniachtchi is trying to do, but there's no threats. Black has the e5 stronghold nicely protected. This must be it. It's now or never. Magnus, is he going to go for the pawn storm, push the g-pawn, maybe push the h-pawn? Maybe the bishop's going to come out with a pin.
Hesitation. He's thinking about it.
I think he's reaching for the bishop.
Bishop g4. Okay.
Then he clears the way for the black king to get to safety on the left side. So he's still hinting at g5 and now pinning that knight to the white queen, putting more pressure on that central pawn that has just moved forward. So asking questions to Jan, some big questions to answer, problematic ones. What is your decision with the d4 pawn?
Despite the fact this is a long match, a 6-game match, a loss with white here would be really, really disastrous for Jan Nepomniachtchi. It is a risky opening. I actually praised his opening choice, but for white, the fact that your bishop is standing out on h4, the dart squared bishop, it's a bit of a target. It's basically a provocation to the opponent, and Magnus clearly has studied this in a lot of detail. It's backfired in Nepomniachtchi's opening.
And it looks like a beautiful position for black as well, right? Your pieces are out. That juicy square on f4, already captured by the black knight. Jan, meanwhile, lays a battery on the diagonal with the bishop and the queen, eyeing the f7 pawn, saying that at least you have to calculate. If you go long castle, the f7 weakness, but it does open up files, and Magnus Carlsen doesn't care. He wants those open lines, a pawn sacrifice.
Wow, he barely even blinked. He's like, okay, I'm not even going to calculate taking that pawn. Neither side calculating bishop takes on f7 there. I think the bishop actually would have been trapped behind enemy lines. But now the pawn advances, Magnus going on the attack.
This is looking very scary for white. I mean, where is the attack on Magnus's king? There are no breaks, no open lines to get to. Meanwhile, for Magnus, you can look at the other knight joining the party from h5. You're looking at the h-pawn moving forward as well. I'm not liking Jan's chances here. With the white pieces, this is not the opening outcome you want.
I'm trying to figure out the best move. It might be h5. That's crazy, though. I mean, you are taking on g5, but my idea is h4. Bishop f4 takes. He can take on f7. Bishop opens up. But he doesn't like playing like that. So, and probably there's something better. If you get h5 in, this could be like GG. So maybe rook d to g to prepare h5. Bishop f7, rook g7, and then go h5. Yeah. Possible.
So many ideas. That's the thing. That's the one kind of hazard here for Magnus is he has so many tempting moves. He might well burn a bit more time on the clock deciding among those temptations. But usually when Magnus attacks, he likes to do it without too many sacrifices. He doesn't want to totally gamble and burn the bridges. There we go. He plays it safe. He retreats his bishop, getting out of the way of his own g-pawn. He also defends his own f-pawn in the process. But getting in the way of his knight, I'm very surprised at that. There was a frown from Jan Nepomniachtchi who retreats his bishop.
Yeah, bishop f1 is nice because his idea now is like, okay, cool, you're not pushing up on me like that on the side, on the king side. He wants to go c4, c5 at some point.
Okay, Magnus takes a timeout to improve his king, shuffle the black king towards the corner. They do say if you castle long, castle queenside, then you should always take a timeout. The corner is the safest place for the king, but this is very time-consuming, this last move. I don't really see what black's next move is, how to continue the attack. So, okay, any ideas what white could be playing? The desirable move is knight to c4, but this knight is currently defending its fellow knight on f3 from
c4, though. Is that a move?
Ooh, c4.
C4 is possible. And then c5 and then de.
Then you're looking at a pawn sacrifice in the middle of the board, right? It weakens the d4 pawn and takes away the pressure from getting c5 in.
Yeah, and I was thinking e5 there, but it is giving up a pawn there. c4, de, and then e5. de, knight e5. My queen is not activated anymore on that diagonal. It's hard to break through. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to break through.
But also for Magnus, right, with the bishop that's just gone on h5, you don't have knight jumps on that square. You're not expanding that h-pawn. Whenever you push g4, white's piece will jump over to h4 and start eyeing the f5 square. So for now, Magnus's kingside attack has also been halted.
Yeah, but Magnus is just playing that kind of trademark brand of chess that he has been exhibiting for so long. Okay, knight c4. I was going to say, just bring all the pieces to the party. Just improve all your pieces and let the tactics fall into place later.
He allows bishop takes knight, and now the pawn formation on the king's side has been ruined. White has a beautiful bishop on f1 defending everything, but I can imagine a future h5, h4 forcing that bishop to capture on f4 and opening up the g line.
Yeah, that would be the attacking way to do it. Magnus first pins the white knight, preventing a capture of the black bishop. So the white knight is pinned. Also, if we remember Capablanca, this bishop on g3, he once made it look really silly in this pawn structure. If the black knight ever moves away, the bishop on g3 is actually trapped for eternity. It can never really re-enter the battle. So, yeah, this is a really tense position. Black, we see, has the advantage on the eval bar, but, of course, anything could happen if the center ever explodes.
Push that h-pawn. It feels like the most natural move in this position. He reaches out, he does it. It's not stopping that. h4 is coming in, forcing that opening up of the G line. And imagine once that happens and you're able to double up with your queen, you're looking at all kinds of checkmating possibilities.
Oh, it does look terrifying. Jan has to shuffle his king into the corner now or on the next couple of moves. The G file is about to blow open. Oh, and it doesn't really help. Taking this black bishop off the board, the black king is actually super safe hiding out on the a7 square no matter what. That pawn structure for black is super safe. No open lines towards the black king. Whereas for the white king, very much there will be open lines. That is a guarantee at this point. Knight to e3, given a question mark. Very understandable move. He wants to plant a knight on f5, at least stop the black queen from coming in. But maybe it's just too slow. Maybe continue with your plan, Tanya.
Yeah, I'd love to see that on the board because, yes, you get your knight to f5, but that's not a great defender there because all the squares close to the king, the g3 square, will be covered by Magnus's pawns. And I'm not understanding how do you keep everything together on the king side after the very natural h4. Magnus has other very appealing possibilities here as well. He can think about preparing it, get that rook to g8 before jumping in with h4. It's just very pleasant. And let's not forget, Jan loves these kind of positions to be black in. He wants to be on the attack. He wants to be on the initiative. He's not someone who's enjoying defending this king side that we've got with destroyed pawn formation, the king in the open, not looking good, but our arena looking very good.
There we go. A sneak peek behind the scenes of our arena. The fans watching. Hello, everyone. Hello, Oslo. They look like they're enjoying the chess. I love the different colours there, I've got to say.
I do like the colours. That's not how I'm like them.
And it's a colourful position on the board too. But yeah, in honour of Rubik's, maybe that colourful, but not in Jan's favour. Magnus about to go for it. He opens up the centre. This is not desirable strategically for black, because white has the bishops, after all, a frown from Jan Nepomniachtchi, but there must be a concrete reason, a specific reason for Magnus choosing this. What is it? Is it due to the fact that maybe pawns will be weak? The black queen now open. A bit of a mysterious one by Magnus.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it felt like the flow on the king side, James, was so easy. Just go on, open the G line, target the king. What ideas? You're the tactic Jedi here. What are the ideas that Magnus has in mind?
H4? I mean, H4 is nice, though. H4. I also want to play something like knight H3, maybe a knight takes E4. Something like that is possible, but...
Jan has to capture on
Correct, he has
D4.
to capture first.
Why is
So
he thinking
Jan's-
right now?
He has to capture and then G4, H4.
I think he's just so shocked at that move. It's counterintuitive to break the center open when black had such control. But yeah, maybe it's a bit of panic. Maybe it is calculating those variations there, knight jumping in with a check, or some way of trying to trap that white dark squared bishop. Actually, yeah, the knight to H3 check. The bishop is pretty much trapped on G3. I don't really see a way to save it. So Jan panicking. But like you say, Tanya, sometimes there are just no options. Rather than spending, 1 minute 20 now on this move, you just got to play, deal with the consequences, and yeah, try to find something a bit later. Instead, he jumps with his knight. But now Magnus is up material and with the attack.
Exactly. I mean, you're the one who wants at least an extra pawn or two to allow black to get this kind of a position, but it's Magnus with the black pieces on the initiative, up on the material, and still ideas of H4 in the air. No attack on the black king. That bishop on B6, a brilliant attacker, but also a really cool defender. Defending A5 and C7 points. Magnus reroutes the knight to the squares that have been opened up. Also, sneakily, that queen will transfer to G6 once the G line opens up, threatening checkmates. Knight D7, a very clever move. All threats in the air.
Feels like Magnus is trying to win this in the style that he said Ding was using in the World Championship. Just minimal calculation, just put pieces on good squares. If the knight ever lands on E5, that is a square that can never be challenged. That's a permanent outpost. I just want to mention as well for everyone at home, knight to G7 looks like a fork. Firstly, black's just going to give up material most likely, but if you want to save your queen and your rook at the same time, you can simply move your queen forward, attacking the white queen, and if there's a trade, you recapture with the black rook, the white knight will be left looking silly on the G7 square. So not a huge threat, not a very scary idea here. And yeah, Magnus playing in his 5th consecutive CCT Finals. It looks like this is just his tournament. This is just his stomping ground.
He's such a big stage player, right? Finds always the ability to bring out his best, you know, under pressure, when fighting for these big moments, playing in front of the home crowd. He's been critical about his form so far, but today I think it's going to be hard even for Magnus to find fault in his play. He first tries to trade the queens off the board. You take it on Magnus's terms. The knight jumps to the center of the board. Watch out for that F3 weakness. No time to capture anything. Queen takes queen, knight takes queen. Looks extremely powerful to me. Jan ending up in this position on move 26 with the white pieces. This is turning out to be very one-sided.
Then again, if Jan saves this, he'll feel like he's invincible, or he'll feel like he's back and has been given a second chance. So these next few moves are critical. It does feel like Jan's stabilized somewhat. He's stopped his dark square bishop getting trapped. The white knight does look more and more pretty by the moment. It looks like it's on a really nice safe square. And Magnus might start getting frustrated. He knows he has a massive advantage. He knows he's winning. But the longer the game goes on without a breakthrough, the more this could turn. He moves his queen. He's clearing the path for that black knight on D7 to jump into the center.
And also watch out, that queen can further penetrate into white's position from that A3 square, eyeing all the pawns on the board, on the left side, on the right side. Combine that with the knight on E5, knight on F4. I don't care if the computer says there was something more accurate for Magnus to convert his advantage, but everything he's done, it just looks incredibly dangerous for white.
Where do you go, Rook C1?
There
Rook
we go.
C1 hits the queen.
Oh, that was a nice intermezzo, a nice intermediate move there. Zwischenzug. Black's knight came in.
Shake? What is this a head shake or?
Ooh.
F3.
Queen A3 on the board.
So many threats now. Black's knight is threatening to capture a pawn with a check. Black's queen is just trying to gobble up the whole queen side. Oh, Jan defends everything for now, but there are some knight forks in the air. The two white rooks are on the same circuit for the black knights.
Yeah, knight D3 just picks up big material on the board, right? He doesn't even want it. He just wants his rooks into the game, eyeing that white queen, rook on D8. And Jan, he's feeling the pressure. You know, he's twirling the pieces, but the pieces on the board are about to fall apart.
This is just a terrible position. All my pieces are clamped down this white here. Can't do anything. I mean, I don't have any targets. What do you even play? Bishop takes F4, maybe to start, to get rid of something.
Barely move.
Takes queen c2, knight f3. There's rook e8 in there.
Everything looks like it's winning right now. The black queen, the black knights, they're so active. Loose pieces do drop off, so as you pointed out there, James, the only black piece that's misplaced is that rook that Magnus moves. He's not calculating anything. He's just improving his pieces constantly and waiting for the tactics to fall in his favor.
Rook d2 is coming too.
And he didn't even have to go around to pick up Jan's exchange. Jan was forced to give up his rook for that knight because the f3 pawn was hanging. And now that's a lot of material, an extra pawn, an extra exchange, and beautiful pieces against the white king. Look at the way Jan's bishops are shut off. That bishop on g3, bishop on g2. No play. Denied game.
Oof, I think we're going to see a handshake in the next few moves, next few minutes. Magnus now has a very pleasant choice to make. The white knight is trying to jump over towards the c4 square with a family fork, hitting the black queen. But there we go. It is removed. Magnus gives back some of the material. But, of course, he's going to emerge with a two-pawn advantage and an ongoing attack. The black rook trying to land on the second rank. This looks over. How to fight on?
Yeah, you don't. In fact, this is nothing. The bishops are terrible. Even if my bishop was good, I don't have any targets. c7 is locked down pretty nicely. Rook e1, that's very good. You can do knight takes g2, whatever you want. Do anything.
And White's rook needs to stay on the first rank. There are checkmating ideas on g1 that White has to watch out for. Just everything in the position has gone wrong for Jan. He's down on the material.
Great.
He's about to be down that king on h2. You know, black just lined up beautifully. Every single piece placed to perfection. There are ideas of taking on h4, take on g2, pick up material on h4.
On g5, maybe throw an h4. You can do anything. This is crazy because I have no moves. Yeah, he threw an h4 there, which is brilliant. But
you take that pawn, knight takes bishop, and the bishop falls.
Takes check, king h1, and h3, and resignation.
I think this is over. This is over for Jan.
We're going to see one or two last moves. Magnus's queen moves in. A pawn deflects the light squared bishop away. There will be a capture now.
Rook e2 is nice.
Oh, there we go. It's a double attack, and Magnus takes a second win. He goes 2 points to 0 up in the Champions Chess Tour Finals.
Yeah, Jan didn't have a chance there, Connie. That's crazy.
And this time there was no analysis post-game. Jan immediately gets up and leaves. He's down 2-0 in the final, and it's sort of been his games to give. He's gotten into trouble early on, made those big mistakes with the white pieces. We saw what happened here in the previous game, missing that opportunity to equalize. And Magnus Carlsen looking chill as ever. 2-0 lead, needs only 3.5 for the championship.
Yeah, 1.5 points. I mean, he's dominating right now. This is crazy. Different Magnus came today. Jan is not able to get on the board. I mean, we've got to stop the bleeding with at least a draw here. As we see 2-0 from Magnus Carlsen, and he gets white in the next game, where Jan needs to stop the bleeding here, or else this could be over very quickly, guys.
Yeah, and it's such fine margins here at the top level. In chess, Magnus, he's of course brought his best chess, but Jan, just one small mistake in the first game, got ground down in an ending, and here it was just the opening. I mean, there was no way back.
It's nothing. 2
or 3 small moves, 2 or 3 small inaccuracies, and Magnus just punished him so brutally there. I mean, poor Jan. He hasn't done too much wrong, but
yeah,
this is just top-class Magnus.
I mean, in game 2, it felt like after 15 moves, White was just worse. Out of an Italian. That's not normal at all, right? And Magnus never gave him a chance to bounce back. He just made it look so incredibly easy. I don't know. It's going to be very, very tough for Jan now to make a comeback in this match. You know, you're down 2-0. You've lost the way he just did with the white pieces. I don't know, James. What has he got to do to make a comeback in this match?
Well, Jan is, I mean, of course, we're all known to tilt, but Jan definitely is known to tilt, especially online too as well, or like you just know when he loses one game, okay, he loses the second game in a row, then he starts to actually tilt. We've seen this before. In fact, the game 6 of the World Championship, he cracked immediately after the 6th game, and that was it. And then he just lost the match from there. So it's tough. You have to bounce back by, you know what, hey, just breathe, play my best game, and maybe switch it up my opening choices too as well. It's hard to even tell. I mean, I've lost with white, I've lost with black. I got to play black again. It's very difficult here. But, of course, Game 3 is coming up. But first, we got Chess.com is thrilled to support the following game changer, Chess Up. Let's go. The record-breaking company taking the gaming world by storm with their brand new Chess Up 2. This physical electronic board syncs to your Chess.com rated games which you can then save and analyze on Chess.com. With built-in Wi-Fi, a touchscreen, and touch-sense pieces, Chess Up 2 supports beginning players, players in training, and casual games between friends and family. For a limited time, save 10% on your Chess Up 2 with code CC10. At the checkout, head over to go.chess.com/chessup2 or use !chessup in chat to unlock this offer and take your game to the next level. Today's CCT final is off to quite an interesting start. Magnus is up. In the break, learn more about Chess Up, and when we return, will Magnus sweep Jan? What do you think, chat? Or will Nepo punch back as black with Game 3? You're watching the 2024 CCT Finals. We'll be back in a few.
What's up, y'all? It's Logic here. Can Magnus take his 5th CCT crown? Stay tuned for more after this.
Okay, so we're gonna set up a game for you.
Okay, sure.
Against an unknown opponent.
Okay.
You're gonna be playing a weaker opponent, so I don't think you need to worry too much.
Then the weaker opponent turns out to be Magnus.
Yeah.
Challenge Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's like special Chess.com board here.
We are integrated into it.
I'm curious how you feel about it otherwise.
No, it's very, very smooth. I always like playing on the board.
I think it's especially good whenever you can play against some friend or against an engine even, yeah, like.
So do you think there are some benefits to like playing online games in this way?
Of course, I think playing over the board is always more interesting. You get to feel that you're playing a real game. And you will not mouse slip.
Some people like to play over the board a lot. Could help them probably.
I haven't been able to check if en passant works, but not that many people would report it as a bug.
Favorite part of the holidays? Well, I like the snow, you know. I like the atmosphere.
I think just the family getting together, and I think this is perfect.
The good time to spend with, you know, your loved ones. So that's the best gift.
As chess players, I'm very used to kind of playing chess whenever. So it includes birthdays, holidays of all kinds.
Okay, so do you think you're going to be getting a Chess Up board for anyone over the holidays?
Could be actually, like I probably can think of a few people who would enjoy that.
This past year, our goal has been to grow chess as a positive influence in the world.
We're joining forces with Chess.com to launch a fundraising campaign to support the education of 5,000 children next year to help them get back to school.
This is Chittlebear Awazir, here with big brothers and big sisters and Chess.com at St. Boniface School. We're here to play some chess, to have some fun, just have a great day here.
A world where every person can enjoy the game, connect with others, and be accepted in the community.
Chess just became something that I could do. I just fell in love with all over again after my accident.
We strive for broad representation in our product and in our content.
Three sisters smashed chess's greatest records, and it all started with an experiment.
I use your puzzles, and I have two people I play with on 3-day.
Believing you can do it is one thing, but knowing you can do it is a whole different thing.
We hope at the very least to earn the respect of our opponent.
Are you afraid of being wrong?
No. We aim to create a place where everyone belongs, regardless of their background or identity.
Whether you call it ajedrez,
Şak,
chess,
xadrez, şahı, satranç, şahmatı, şatranç,
or chess. It's the global game that unites us all.
Welcome back to the Champions Chess Tour, and of course it's 100,000 people. Shout out to you guys, David, Tanya. That's crazy. 100,000 people watching right now. 100,000?
Chess is for everyone, James.
That is crazy. Chess is for everyone, and of course, and we has a growing influence on the world. This year has been nice and reaching out to people and understanding, you know, what does chess mean to you two?
After you, Tanya.
Well, if I had to give a one-word answer, I think the only word that would sum it up is everything. You know, I was very young when I started playing, and my granddad is from the army. So we always grew up in a very sort of a patriotic household, and I always had this dream to make him proud. So chess gave me that platform to play for India, to get into the team, and I managed to do that. And I think for me, that was one of my biggest moments with my grandfather. He's not there anymore, but he had a huge impact on me growing up. And I wish that, and I think one of the things that I'm very proud of is that I could give him that moment that, you know, one of the kids in the family went on and to play for the country. And if I could go back in time to my, you know, 12, 13-year-old who at that time was struggling because it's so hard, there's so much competition, you know, if I could go back in time and just give her a hug and say, you know, you're going to make it, just keep going, because chess is for everyone.
That's nice. David?
Yeah, and I'm also going to go back in the time travel machine. And yeah, I mean, just going to my first chess club when I was, I think, 6 years old. And it was intimidating at first. I walked in, didn't know anybody, but there were people of all ages. It was actually the older men in the group who took me under their wing. They were like, okay, you're a talented kid, you can do this. They were teaching me everything they knew. I mean, there was even one of the best players in the club. He was blind, and I just found that so amazing that chess could still be, you know, his passion and give him kind of, I mean, just to show how talented he was simply. And it just blew my mind. And I mean, even being at Singapore for the World Championship recently, all these years later, just seeing the passion, people crying when Gukesh won, celebrating, people flying over specially just to witness this historic occasion. Yeah, chess is life.
Yeah, chess is life, as you say, with the passion there, of course. Especially, I never thought that chess would bring me. I mean, I'm in Norway right now. Hi, Mom. Hi. You know, I'm in Norway, right? So chess It's everything. I love the fact that even the stream and how my community is and how positive we are and cutting off all type of negativity, but also at the same time helping others. Like I've had people say, hey, you know, I was going through a tough time and I almost, you know, committed suicide. Actually, it was crazy. And then he was like, hey, chess, your chess, your community has helped you and we're still here today. So you never know what you're doing through the chess community, guys. So, you know, shout out to all of you now. Thank you. Of course, it's been 1 year anniversary of chess. It's for everyone. Visit.
It's got very
chess.com.
emotional, guys.
Go to chess.com/everyone for more. But we have a final going on still. Magnus is up 2-0 versus Jan Nepomniachtchi. Could we have possibly expected this? Now, I'm going to say, okay, yeah, it's possible, especially if Magnus is on. What do you guys think?
You know, the form and the shape that Jan has been showing this entire final so far, I was not expecting it to be this one-sided so far with 2-0. That's a massive lead in a best-of-6, a point and a half away from taking the championship. I mean, this could be a match in 4.
Yeah.
Because Magnus has got a white coming up as well. So really tough. And, you know, so far, David, every single strategy that Jan had, every single plan that he had seemed to work. But it feels like everyone's got a plan until Magnus shows up.
Exactly, and this is, I mean, this is Champions Chess Tour Magnus. This is Alpha Magnus. This is where he shines, simply. He's been here so many times. He's won 4 years in a row, the Champions Chess Tour. Then again, Jan isn't out of it. He still has to do things step by step. He just needs to stop the bleeding. They always say, don't castle queenside. Don't make 3 zeros in a row. That's the chess notation for castling queenside. So this next game, I think a draw is not the worst result. He's got black. He'll have white in the next game. If he can win one of the next 2 games, he's right back in it. And Magnus might start to get nervous.
Well, Magnus castled alongside in the last game, and that seemed to work to perfection, James.
He did, right. Of course, and Magnus is in a pretty good spot here, though. Mike Klein caught up with him. Let's take a listen.
Thanks, guys. We're back with Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen, who has a 2-0 lead. It felt like when your Queen's Knight got to f4 that the game just flowed. Did you have any stress at all during this game?
No, it's obviously a great version for me of something that's kind of normal, since my king is very safe on the queen side, and it feels like I'm getting everything a bit quicker than usual. So it felt really, really nice for me. I think position is still complicated. I'm sure we made some mistakes, but it felt from that point on that I was definitely in the driver's seat.
And finally, a 2-0 is a dream start. Will this impact the way you play going forward?
We'll see. I mean, it's couldn't have been better, of course, but still work to do. But we're getting to a point where you know, it's going to be a tough run.
First hour of CCT Finals belongs to Magnus Carlsen. Back to you in the studio.
Magnus is ready to go. Look at that. Jan already at the board, locked in. He understands. We got to do what we got to do. We have to get it done now. We have to stop the bleeding. If we don't, it's time to go home.
I mean, this one's essential, right? Because Magnus has got the white pieces, and whatever happens, Jan at least has to get the draw in this one. If things go wrong, it's match over. It's not too soon to call the championship then. So it all comes down to this moment. If Jan can actually create chances, then we're looking at a real match on our hands right now, James, but an essential Game 3 coming up.
Yeah, I don't actually know if Magnus has ever lost 3 games in a row, so Jan can definitely not lose this next game. He'll be on the brink there. Hear the round of applause. The world number 1 enters the arena. The question is what strategy Jan goes for. Does he go solid, as per game 1, but risk getting ground down in a long positional battle? Does he go aggressive, as per game 2, and risk getting knocked out in the opening?
Yeah, but then, David, it's to James' point, right? Is Jan going to find himself tilting right now? Because we've seen him go through those emotions. Does he have it in him to forget what has happened and sort of just start that, you know what, this is a best-of-4 match now, and I start fresh right now? Just let the ghost of the past be. But it's easier said than done.
Definitely. Easier said than done here. You are playing Magnus. You just have to maybe try to play something you're not used to playing, but not so solid. You know, you have to stop the bleeding now, or this is just going to be a whitewash in 4 games, you know. So maybe draw and win. It's easier said than done, but he's going to try to get it done here. Let's see the opening choice. E4, D4, E4, and yeah, something else. You know what I mean? Right? He went E5. And we have an Alapin. Let's go. I like that. I ain't gonna lie. I love
happy James and a happy David.
Definitely love Alapin.
It's the Alapin Sicilian, also known as the C3 Sicilian. White played that move on, move 2. Hence, he is able to build a big pawn center. That pawn gets captured. Magnus temporarily, with a pawn sacrifice here, kicks back the black knight from the center. And this is something that Magnus employed yesterday, this opening, the c3 Sicilian, so it shouldn't come as a shock for Jan Nepomniachtchi. If he's been doing his homework, he might have a plan here. The thing is, your plans might all be thrown out the window. He didn't expect to be 2 points down. And he does play a very rare move, getting ready to fianchetto the black bishop. And now white's main move by far is knight to g5. I've been playing this since I was a kid, this opening, and it's a simple checkmate in one threat. But sometimes the simple caveman approach is actually the best one. Magnus isn't a habitual kind of long-term c3 Sicilian player, just coming to it in recent times. So, okay, he doesn't go for the main line, instead just the most natural move, recapturing a pawn.
The most annoying thing for a Sicilian player to face the Alapin, the 2c3, is that it sort of just crushes your hopes, right? Because you're really hoping for an open Sicilian. You've got your ideas whether you want to go into a dragon or a Najdov or play the Sveshnikov, but c3 just completely changes the dynamics, the core of what the Sicilian for the black pieces stands for.
Yeah, it's very fun. That's why it's, I think actually, okay, I'll say this. Magnus has a tweet out there. You can Google this. It's a long time ago. But if you Google C3 Sicilian Magnus, there's a tweet that comes up, in fact. And he says that, hey, pro tip, you know, play the Alapin against me. I hate it. I remember seeing this, so I was already super hyped. This was years ago when he said this. So, of course, he's just doing it to everyone else. You're like, oh, you want to play Sicilian? C3. And then you're like, you get kind of frustrated sometimes. But it depends on what kind of game you're looking for.
Yeah, you're right, James. I once played Magnus in 2009 in the London Chess Classic, and it was a long game. It was a draw, ultimately. And afterwards, he was like, David, why are you playing the C3 Sicilian? Like, you could be so much more. You could be so much better. And then I was like, what do you mean? It was a draw. You know, I drew against the one and one. He's like, yeah, I mean, I want you to stop playing it because I hate it. I hate playing against it. And now he's adopted it from the white side. And in the meantime, we see an isolated queen's pawn. So it's a bit of a mirror image from game one. Jan was the one with the IQP, the isolated pawn in that game. This time it's Magnus. He's pushing it forward. This is actually a transposition now to a Grunfeld/Caro-Kann hybrid. Black has an extra move.
Nice.
Black queen on d6 is well developed. I'm expecting the knight to go to the edge of the board. Jan is a Grunfeld player. This is very similar to one of the main lines of the Grunfeld, actually. And yeah, you can use a bit of pattern recognition here. I do believe Magnus is uncomfortable with white. He doesn't like playing with isolated pawns in general. So a good start to the game for Jan, as Magnus either enjoying the music or trying to remember his opening theory.
Or he's just enjoying the math situation. He's up 2 games right now, going into this third one. For Jan, I agree with you. You know, you can create the first imbalance by picking up the bishop, get the bishop pair, start targeting that central pawn. And look at Magnus. He's trying to remember some setups, some plans right now. Head in hands, I think he's kind of going through in his head, David, what are the different ways in which white can complete development. He looks distraught, but he's not feeling distraught just yet.
He's listening to the Black Keys, Magnus Carlsen.
Lonely boy.
Lonely boy.
He's listening to the Black Keys, but he's not playing with the black pieces. He's, got to get the action going here. But it is Jan Nepomniachtchi to go into the tank for the first long think of this game.
There's maybe, okay, rook e1.
Okay, what?
I'm not the biggest fan of these C3 Sicilians because the pawn is weak on d5, but there is chances to create stuff like bishop g5 hits e7. You can go bishop takes e7 type thing.
Well, one very direct thing in this position is that black could trade the bishop and the knight and pick up the d5 pawn. But that's usually, he does the bishop, but I would be very surprised if we see a bishop takes knight, because you never really want to give up that fianchetto bishop. It's such a powerful piece required to defend your own king that bishop takes knight to pick up the d5 pawn just looks too greedy and will get you into a lot of trouble. I'm expecting Magnus to recapture with the a pawn, developing his rook that's on the a file without having to move it. Wow, Magnus seems a bit surprised. It looked like he missed something. Did he miss that the d5 pawn is hanging?
Potentially, although in those kind of associated openings that often reach this type of position by transposing, this is a typical idea. Often you do give up a pawn and you just play as if nothing happened. I'm really surprised Magnus is thinking, as you say, Tanya.
He might be thinking queen takes.
I mean, it's between these two moves, right? It's queen takes knight, pawn takes knight. And both have got their own sort of advantages here. James, intuitively, which one? How do you want to recapture him?
I like taking with the queen to encourage him to actually, to encourage the pawn. I really want you to do bishop c3. Believe it or not, I'm actually going b c3. If queen d5, I go rook e7. And then if knight d5, I have bishop h6 first, maybe followed by a c4. I get some quick initiative very fast, you know, maybe c4, queen to b2, rook a d1, Very quick moves here from Magnus. Queen c3 allows knight takes d5, which I don't like.
With a tempo.
Correct.
And it's not Jan's style, really, to go pawn grabbing. He wants to play with the initiative. He wants to play quick, easy, active moves without allowing the opponent to come at him and attack. So, yeah, grabbing this knight does allow black to take the pawn on the next move, as just mentioned there. But a bit on the greedy side, and the risk-reward ratio probably isn't high enough there. So he brings his other bishop out instead. I think a very logical move, and showing the consequences, the downside of white's last move, the white queen no longer defending her knight on the f3 square.
Here we go. What do you think the move's going to be? Download, take. Experience chess fandom like never before. You know it, guys. Go download, take. It's right under me. Use exclamation point, take in chat, or go.chess.com/takex3. What's the next move here?
Yeah, let's guess the move. Let's all do it.
Guess the move.
Let's all try and guess.
Okay. All right.
I'll go third.
This is the toughest
Queen
moment
takes
you could have
b6.
picked for this. You're losing that one.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah, because bishop takes knight, I mean the kingside knight, is actually a big threat on the board, so you have to fight it. I would be tempted to move this knight away, but I'm struggling to find a square.
Knight g5.
Did he play? Oh, he brings the bishop to that square. He's got a threat. e7 is hanging.
That's a nice threat.
Yep, a big threat now. So black has no time to take the white knight. White would flick in. Bishop takes pawn, attacking the black queen, attacking the black rook, and ultimately win material. So I'm expecting the normal reaction, at least, is to simply defend this pawn with your rook. Does look a bit passive, though. Magnus gaining a tempo.
I have a question for you, David. I would be so tempted to take that knight on f3, but apparently it didn't work because of the whole tactics that we were looking at. So he first defends it, renews that threat of bishop takes knight. You'd love to jump in with your knight to the center of the board, but knight e4 unfortunately invites the d5 pawn, queen takes pawn, so he defends it. He's allowing Jan to destroy the pawn formation on the king side. I find this very surprising.
I mean, it's surprising because it's not typical Magnus. Normally, no matter what he does, he's a very universal player, of course, but he likes to have a very kind of stable structure, a nice skeleton to his position, long-term now and short-term. The white king is weak. The white pawns are so weak and isolated. I don't know how many islands this is, but it's too many for white. Ultimately, though, the black piece is very far from the king side, so he's thinking short-term. He's got so much activity with his rooks, with his bishop, with the white knight about to start jumping. He can get away with this, and maybe he's right.
This is playing with fire, though, right? I mean, that pawn formation long-term is a big strategic weakness. And even short-term, black can start targeting it by rerouting either the queen or the knight, David, via the d7 square. You put the knight there, it can jump to e5 or c5. You put the queen there and you enter on the right side of the board. There are all these ideas, and I'm surprised that Magnus voluntarily gave so much counterplay and these counter chances to Jan in this critical game 3. This is a dream position for Jan looking to make a comeback.
Yeah, very possible. There's it's annoying because I do have knight b5, but the queen d7 idea is very annoying. I'm just trying to get knight b5 in, obviously. d6, and then you have e takes d, rook takes e8, and then rook takes d6. But the queen gets into h3. You got some problems on the e1 square. It's just weird. It's very strange. Very strange. Which queen d7 is now played, so maybe he goes king g2 to tighten all that up.
Yeah, I think a good shout there, just in case the black queen is ever able to pounce. It's always nice to kind of control squares, and here the white king can protect everything. But in the meantime, look at the accuracy between the two players. This is a high-quality game, 99.5% accuracy by Nepomniachtchi so far. He's done everything right in his attempts to come back. But striking and catching Magnus off guard, that is going to be a whole another challenge. Knight to e4 played, hinting that the white knight might start its journey towards c5. Maybe this move that James mentioned there, d6, just trying to blow open diagonals for the white pieces, lines for the white rooks. How is black going to react?
That's a nice idea. d6 and knight f6 to follow and just take up over all the dark squares. And it could be problematic, but I can't get to h6 yet because of queen h3. So as we see the fans there, hey, what's up, guys? Hello.
Hey, give us a thumbs up.
Thumbs up, clap. Do some jumping jacks. Okay, don't do that. No. But no, awesome. Good to see all of you.
We definitely didn't tell them to clap on demand.
Love you guys. So 8-6 played right now, hitting that bishop from g5, forcing it to fall back. And again, not too many options. I would be tempted to put it on that f4 square on this diagonal. Feels like the most active spot here. But how is Jan eventually stopping that d6 move, right? That's the question. Because that bishop from f4 only doubles down on that threat.
Yeah, sometimes it's inevitable. There will be big pawn breaks, so you just have to brace for impact. You have to get all your pieces on the right squares. It's going to be tough. First big decision for Magnus. He
comes back to e3.
Okay, gets in the way of his rooks, though. But
maybe bishop d4, David. That's the point as well.
Hinting that he might even take the black knight on a good day. Start pawn grabbing. But yeah, I think you're right. Black's MVP is the black bishop. It's the heart and soul of the position. Jan loves his fianchettoed bishops as black, by the way. So a very good idea to trade that one off. No easy moves for Jan. That is another issue. We see him using up much more time than he has in previous rounds. Normally, Jan is up at like 7-8 minutes at this point. His opponent's down at 2 or 3 minutes. But he's behind on the clock. Maybe the match situation playing a part there.
And it's a very complicated game, right? I mean, visually, it looks like Black should be doing well here because White has got these very unhealthy pawns. Black has got no targets. You know, there are no pawns to be attacked. Looks like a great structure. And Jan jumps in, a big move with the queen to the right side of the board, eyeing that f3 pawn. And now a decision by Magnus. Will he give up the bishop for the knight, or will he try to trade off that MVP, the most valued piece in Black's position, with a move like bishop d4? Let's not forget the queen laterally then defends the f3 pawn once the bishop is out of the way.
I vote for your move, Tanya.
Which is my move.
You convinced me. Trade off those bishops. And the black queen is a bit of a lone ranger right now. She's not really doing too much on her own. So as long as you protect all the pawns around... Wow, he actually goes the other way, Magnus. He's just lost a move on purpose. His bishop could have landed here last turn.
So strange.
Very odd. But the bishop is quite well placed there. It does kind of hint that it might drop back and totally block off the black queen. But yeah, slightly odd. Inconsistent from Magnus.
David, put yourself in Jan's shoes right now, right? As our in-house grandmaster, our resident grandmaster. You're down 2 points. You've got this position. What's going on in your mind right now?
I mean, I haven't been able to compete with these two since 2002. But, I mean, if I were Jan, I would just be trying to keep as much tension as possible. It is a difficult position, though, to kind of even know where to start calculating. The black rook in the corner, still at home on its starting square, needs to get into the game, but it feels a bit slow. It feels like White is now ready to break open the position with that d6 move that we were talking about. I would just be trying to find a way to deal with that, survive the next few moves. Long term, Black is doing great. Black's got a better pawn structure, so short term, it's about survival. He brings his knight into the game.
Is he going to go d6 now? Is the big move coming in? And Jan down to 3 minutes. He'll have some big questions to answer with little time on the clock.
D6 might be answered with, crazy enough, E5, and then, you know, E5 could be a thing, and then, but I want to get F5 and G5 in. Obviously, I can't because the queen on B3, but D6 is possible. I wonder where he's going with his knight, though. Knight D7, where are we going? Maybe knight F6, I guess.
Or maybe even E5, right?
Yeah.
Targeting that F3 pawn. I mean, give Black one move, and you're looking at some knight jumps which are uncomfortable for the White king.
All right.
Yeah, some pawn twiddling going on. Piece twiddling from Magnus. Jan playing with a pawn there. D6 eventually does land as expected. Long awaited this pawn break. The white rooks are licking their lips now at the prospect of open lines, so it might be time to block things up. I like your move, James. Just lock the files. Yes, that's a scary pawn to allow it to live, but opening things up would be disastrous for Black, with the queen so far offside.
Yeah,
Big
E6
moment.
is going to be bad. E6 allows queen B7 with tempo, and that pawn on D6 is a monster. So maybe you do go E5, and then just to gain the tempo, we gain some time there. Bishop moves away, and then where'd he go? Knight E5 instead.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa, was not expecting that one.
He blocks that attack on the F3 pawn, moves the bishop back, and still a decision to be made on that pawn, that big pawn on D6.
The blue arrow makes an appearance. That is the computer's suggestion. The top move by a large margin. I'm not sure whether anything else loses. I think you can stay alive in various ways, but by far the best move, rook to D8.
Well, pawn takes pawn you can disregard, right? Because that knight jumps to D6, attacks that rook on E8. The rook opens up with contact to the E5 knight. And there are so many threats on the F7 pawn, the rook and the knight. And Jan finds the best move to stay alive in this game.
Yeah, I think Magnus might have underestimated this one, you know. It's not the most obvious move. I was actually going to say it's a difficult one to find, but Jan is a very dynamic player. He gets the dancing going again, head bobbing.
He's vibing. He's a vibing Jan.
Usually when he does that, it means he's enjoying his position. But he's got 2 minutes on the clock. And you know, the complications, they're all still here. There's a lot to navigate right now for black.
Should we try and figure out what happens if pawn takes pawn? Okay, he actually attacks the black knight, Magnus, very quickly. And wow, going back now, this is the computer, the blue arrow, top move by a margin.
Easy. I have queen b7, like, with tempo. That's insane.
That's super tough. I mean, I would be so tempted to get that black knight towards the white king, right? Move it to g4.
Ooh.
And Jan, second time in a row, plays the best move.
Of course he does. I was looking the other direction as well. The white king looks so juicy as a target, but actually this is the square he wants, Jan Nepomniachtchi, supported by his fianchettoed bishop. The black knight's going to do some serious damage there, and I think queen takes pawn is likely to happen. Magnus loves grabbing pawns, but then the black knight does jump with big threats, and momentum could turn.
Are we going to see a classic Magnus Carlsen exchange sacrifice on d4 when that knight jumps in? Rook takes knight, give up your rook, and then grab that e7 pawn.
I think it's going to happen, Tanya. Magnus is definitely terrified, and rightly so, of this knight check. But look at the bar slide. This is the best position Jan has had all match so far.
And James, I'm surprised at that computer evaluation that we're seeing, because taking that knight on d4, getting rid of it, getting a pawn on e7 looks so incredibly dangerous. But I think Jan's defensive resource of rook d7 at the end of the line to get rid of that pawn immediately is where it's at.
Yeah, rook d7, supported by the black queen from afar. Black will likely defend this. Maybe we just quickly jump in and show there are some tricks, some traps in the air. Magnus, whoa, he moves his king. We were expecting a sacrifice here. Now black can maybe just take this pawn on d6. But just to backtrack, the reason Magnus was so terrified is actually pawn takes pawn I was trying to work out. But now black simply gives a check. And I thought this was terrifying. Knight takes e1 would have actually threatened checkmate. Black would have had winning attack. But king to h1, Jan did indeed just capture this pawn. This is the current game position. And he's just a pawn ahead. Where are the tricks? What is... Oh, he's not even a pawn up, actually. White did grab on b7, but the black knight is coming in. It feels like it's all about black's attack and the weak white king.
And look at that bishop that Magnus has on g3. That's not even a bishop. It's just blocked and clamped by its own pawns. Meanwhile, bishop on g7, beautiful. Yes, like you're saying, a big pawn. Knight jumping into f3. The e file open. That d pawn will move one step ahead to destabilize that knight on e4. Is Jan about to make a comeback?
Ooh, it does look possible. Very possible. It's a very fantastic position for him, but it is times getting lower, as we've seen. I mean, we've even seen it from both sides here. Even Jan saving a position against Alireza yesterday, but then also Magnus saving against Wesley early in the round-robin stage. It's very possible. Definitely, Jan has a good position here, but he has to convert, which is very hard to do, especially with lower time.
And James, the head bob was back. I don't know if you saw that. Knight f5, and he was vibing.
Whoa, knight to c5, though. Magnus trying to use some pins, some tricks and tactics to stay alive. The black rooks were about to double up on the e-file. Now one set of rooks has disappeared, been traded. There is a pin, of course, the black rook. Not protected, so you cannot take this knight, but if he can ever get this rook into play, if you can pick that rook and put it anywhere in white's half, anywhere in white's camp, it's just over. The black queen knight, they're fantastic. They just need a little bit more.
Oh, nice tactic there. Rook e4, big fella. He's swinging. He's swinging. There's an f1 mate there. Everywhere. Wow, that was an incredible move.
Yeah, the white knight cannot jump out the way with a check, because if the white rook ever moves away, it takes the black rook, as you mentioned there, Kansi. Checkmate. You've got to watch your back door here.
Wait, can I still go knight f6 and take with the queen, though? Knight f6,
bishop g7.
Oh, there's knight g7. Oh, that's the problem. Because I was going to go queen e8 if bishop g7.
Oh, nice.
But there's knight g7.
You show this.
Nasty.
Beautiful.
Knight check doesn't work. Now, rook takes rook allows checkmate. Meanwhile, after a capture, queen takes knight to g7, protecting the rook. And now this tension, again, leads to these checkmating ideas. Black would be a piece up. I think Magnus might have missed this trick. It does look like it was about to work for white. But now this pin is so annoying.
That was nice. I ain't gonna lie. Incredible move from Jan.
Oh, and he's vibing. Down to 1 minute each.
Yeah, this is getting very tricky for Magnus. He sidesteps the idea of queen f1, and immediately Jan responds by getting his rook to a defensive square on e6. No more tricks with the knight jumping. No more discover checks. And you can see it on Magnus. He's not happy.
He's not happy at all. He reluctantly moves his rook out of the pin. The black queen drops back.
Rook takes knight, a big threat, deflecting the white queen.
Watch out. Apparently not the best move, but a very testing move. It's the type of move that could tip the opponent over the edge if they're not careful. No time for Magnus. He moves his rook.
Defends it. And the black queen can't jump to that f3 square because you've got these jumps with the knight capturing that queen that would look so dangerous on f3. That would be a big blunder.
Yeah, Jan's last move, the only downside is he was playing for tricks. Okay, now he pins the white bishop.
Knight h4 ideas.
Ooh, poison pawn, don't take that one. If the black queen captures that f-pawn now, then there are tricks. The white knight jumps out the way. The white queen was indirectly defending it. Oh, Magnus is defending, but oh, g5, blue arrow.
That's great. That's not.
Never gonna happen.
Bro. G5 is sick though, because the rook coming over too. But wow, what a move.
Yeah, that makes no sense. You know, you lose the defense of the knight. Pawn takes pawn, felt like a free pawn there. He first comes back with the knight. G5 ideas revolve around opening up the G file for the black rook, but now you can't play it. The queen is lined up against the black king. Nice move by Magnus.
Yep.
Jan keeping on the pressure. He comes back, attacking the f4 pawn. Every move coming in with a threat.
Bishop G or E3 probably, defending.
Ooh, Magnus takes a pawn though. Pawn's disappearing. The white king is so weak, but the pieces are perfectly coordinated. And okay, does Jan have an opportunity? Queen takes pawn now.
It's not a free pawn because f7 gets picked up and Jan's knight is coming towards Magnus's king.
Oh, this is ugly.
Tactics
in the zone.
Tactics are always going to work in black's favor because his king is totally safe, Jan Nepomniachtchi, whereas Magnus Carlsen's king right now is so vulnerable from so many different angles. White's knight is so far offside as well.
It's trapped there. There's no way home for that knight. So you have to watch out. Not only save your king, but the knight on f7 as well.
They're both under 30 seconds. Knight d8 only move.
Oh, it's coming back. He has to move that knight. Save it.
Oh, he has rook d6. That's
under 10 seconds.
And rook e3 as well. Those are the other ideas. There's no time. Magnus needs to make a move.
Get a move!
Oh, he chooses the best square for his knight. The black knight was too strong, had to be challenged. Now, if there is an exchange, then white might be able to save the game. The black knight needs to stay on the board somehow.
Jan under 15 seconds.
And Jan can enter with the rook to e3, attack that queen. He does it. Knight takes knight would not work because of tactics. Has to move the queen.
Has to move the queen. And, okay, there is a capture. It's knight for bishop exchange. But now there's no more attack. The white king looks much safer than it was previously.
But there's so much attack on the clock right now for both these players. So much tension. Jan down to 6 seconds.
Gotta move.
And still a lot of tactics on the board.
He cannot let this turn, Jan Nepomniachtchi. It is turning. He's lost control completely now. The white knight is beautifully placed on an outpost.
And the white king perfectly safe behind his own pawns now. And look at the way Magnus has transposed this position, getting the queen centralized in front of the rook, complete control of the d file, blocking of the e file with his own knight.
Yeah.
Complete time scramble.
This could be bad for black. With this queen coming to b7 next, probably still drawn.
2 seconds. Oof.
And Jan desperately trying to hold things together, but now a check.
Beautiful.
Oh, you have to be so careful.
Oh my gosh.
He had to go queen b8, nice.
Oh, now there's an exchange. Is it going to be knight or bishop that triumphs, though?
That knight lands on c6, you end up losing that a7 pawn. Magnus, how's he going to find a way to attack that bishop?
There are pawns on both sides of the board, so bishop might be able to hold its own, but right now, white's a pawn, 2 squares from promotion. That could be disastrous for black. Okay, he's stabilizing, though. He's defending everything, Jan, really well. A draw would be a great result for him at this point. Magnus is applying some pressure. Jan cannot afford to lose.
What an absolute roller coaster of a game this is. The king comes back to defend that pawn. This endgame is not over. It could go any way. Both players have managed to get some time on the clock. But maybe Magnus needs to be a little careful because the black king might slowly march over to the left side of the board and pick up that a6 pawn.
Quickly march over. King is coming. It's going to be a race.
Oh my gosh.
Take. Uh-oh. He has to try to bail out.
Jan was actually winning if he hadn't pushed his h-pawn, kept more pawns on the board, but now not enough pawns left. The pieces will give each other up for the remaining pawns. And we'll soon see a handshake. This one's going to end with king versus king.
Yeah. And the white knight finds itself on the right spot. a3 is the square where you need it to jump around and stop that black pawn from promoting.
And Magnus now just needs to bring his knight back, or his king across. A flashy way of banking the draw.
Whoa. And a sigh of relief there. What a game.
Wow. What a save. Jan needed that. Of course, he can breathe a sigh of relief in a way, but also a little angry about that. He knew he was winning. He had chances. but at least he's on the board here. At least he's on the board, and he gets the white pieces next.
This was an absolute up and down game, right? Topsy-turvy. Whites winning, blacks winning, whites winning, blacks winning. Is it a draw? Is it not a draw? And in the end, ends peacefully. But once again, anything but peaceful. The play that we saw by both these players, and Jan Nepomniachtchi keeps his chances alive with that save.
Wow, 2.5 half. Of course, Magnus is one game away from clinching it, but Jan says, hold up. We still got some chess left. He's on the board here, and he gets the white pieces next, trying to strike against Magnus.
Wow. Ultimately, a decent result for both players. I think Magnus just a sigh of relief. He lost control completely. Nearly a comeback. That would have really flipped the script there. But look at that face from Magnus. He knew how close that was.
Yeah, and the fans must have loved this game. What an absolute entertainer it was by both these players. And Jan Nepomniachtchi on the push at the start, but Magnus managed to turn it around when he pushed that D pawn forward, and you could see the tension. You could feel the nerves right there, playing on second James, holding that end game, the knight versus bishop. And we saw the bar do a little bit of a dance, you know, just showing how difficult it is for players, for humans to play this out. And in the end, it's a draw.
It's a draw, as it always is there. But Jan, of course, sometimes it really is about stopping the bleeding, meaning get on the board. Don't lose every single game. Cool, all right, breathe. I feel a little bit better. I get the white pieces this game. Now I need to play my absolute best. David, what do you have for us?
Yeah, that game 3, was a step in the right direction for Jan Nepomniachtchi, but ultimately it was a tale of missed opportunities. And just 2 brief moments from this game that Jan might start to regret. It was in the middle game that he had a clear long-term advantage. Here, however, instead of retreating the black queen, maybe stepping in the wrong direction here, he could have tried to cash in immediately. Knight to h4, threatening checkmate in 1, was the right way forward for black here, forcing pretty much the bishop to trade off for the black knight. And actually here, you realize suddenly that the white pawn on f4 is simply indefensible. No way to hold that one. You cannot step it forward because the black rook and queen team up on the white knight. And once this pawn drops, the black bishop will start to line up against the white king. This would have been a decisive advantage. Just to fast forward right to the endgame as well, Jan, after some twists and turns, re-established a winning position. It was a race here between the black a pawn running down the board and white's king running to gobble up pawns on the other flank. If, instead of blinking here and pushing his pawn forward, trading off too many pawns, Jan had simply captured on a6, then he might well have won this game. King to d5, the black bishop now moves away, stopping the white knight from ever jumping back to prevent the pawn moving, and this race would have been won by black. The a pawn simply would have promoted. 2 big missed opportunities and a draw being the result.
Yeah, and a lot of best moves there we see, David, as well. And, you know, accuracy in the late 80s, it just goes on to show how complex and how difficult the game was, finding and navigating the path through these complications. Once again, for Jan, he survives to go into the other game. But for Magnus, with the black pieces, if he wins the next one,
it's over.
He's the champion. It's over. So for Jan, with the white pieces, he's got to go all out here.
He's got to go all out. What we have white, so opening choices. We know he's a phenom with English. E4 just didn't seem to work. What do you think we have here, David? What is he going to play? Ready? Knight of 3, c4.
I would love to see the English opening, just being a patriot. But no, I actually think he should avoid at e4 at all costs. The World Championship match in 2021, he was just playing e4, 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 just continuously, really kind of loyally sticking to that, but he wasn't getting anywhere against Magnus Carlsen. I think he will have learned lessons from that and needs to try something totally new.
Yeah, of course. It's actually a statistic I remember reading a long time ago in ChessBase about World Championship matches, or even just e4 just not being the move that works as much, or scoring as high as d4 and other openings do. So maybe we'll see a switch up here from Jan, but he does have the white pieces and he needs to figure out, what am I going to do, because that game is about to start soon. Look at that. First thing first is, what song do I need to play? What do you think he's playing? Okay.
He's got to get some big boy beats going right now, because he has to come all guns blazing in this one. And I agree with both of you about 1e4. You know, it was game 1 here in the Italian that Jan, he bungled it up in the tactics later on, but never really got much out of the opening to start with as well. So going back to that, probably not the best approach. And I'm just wondering, is one knight f3 the new 1e4?
It feels that way. We're all ready for the Reti, the most flexible opening in chess. He's also scored so highly with the English opening, Jan.
Yeah.
I remember losing to him a couple of times in the English opening. There we see him just breathing, getting in the zone, doing his thing. But whatever opening he picks, he just needs to keep the tension. It nearly worked for him in that last game. So close to taking down Magnus. All-important game 4 here. To begin.
But he needs to get out of his own head there, in fact, because we see some head shakes. He's just unhappy in a lot of things. In fact, I actually learned this from Hikaru a long time ago, but it is good to understand that. He says you have to have short-term memory loss with these games. It is easier said than done. Obviously, it still hurts to lose, or like you had your advantage in the last game, thinking about where I could have been better. But you have a game in front of you now that you have to immensely focus on right now, or else it's over with. But you can see he's still in his head here. If he's not able to get over that and focusing on the last game, this could trickle into this game, which could be disastrous for him.
No, as a player, having this little switch around time between games is a double-edged sword, because on one go you don't have time to recover, but also if you have that mindset, you realize you don't have time to really think about everything that's happened. So it really depends on the kind of mental fortitude, the mindset that you're coming in with. And the crowd's clearly hyped, guys, and I see why. It's because the home crowd favorite, world number 1, Magnus Carlsen, has just walked in a point away from becoming the champion.
Yeah, the local boy. And how are you feeling out there in the arena downstairs?
How are you feeling, guys?
Are you enjoying
Where's
the show?
the hype?
There it is.
There it is. There we go. Okay. And, what are we expecting here? How is Magnus going to set up? We're assuming that Jan's going to try an attack or try to try something a bit flashy in the opening, a bit unexpected potentially. But how is Magnus going to set up? Is he going to try and be solid, draw it, and go to the next game with white on the brink of victory? Or is he going to try and bank it here and now?
Well, I saw Magnus, he just looked on to the crowd, I think, looking for that inspiration. We'll find out with first move. It's go time. It's the queen's pawn opening. No one e4.
Or c4.
Okay. What is Magnus going to go for? It is the Nimzo Indian defense. Black to bishop comes out for an early pin. And, okay, I like this choice from Jan. He gives black a lot of options. The downside being that Magnus has studied the Nimzo Indian since he was a kid, since these two first met all those years ago. And it is Jan, actually, to start thinking early on.
Actually, I was going to ask you at the start of the show, David, we had that photograph on, right, from the World Under-12 when these two played. I think it was the second time ever that they faced each other in that tournament. Looking back at that time, by the way, we do have a Taraj. We'll get into the position. But are there certain characteristics that you remember from back then, which you see them employ even now?
Yes, they're both even stronger now, of course. But the first time I met Jan was back in, I think, 2000. And he was so quick, so confident with his moves. That is still the same to this very day. And yeah,
he'd play fast.
He'd play fast. He'd play very dynamic chess. And he's never changed his colours there. And that's why he's so good. He plays true to his strengths, true to his style. And he's just worked on that and kind of, yeah, perfecting what he knows he's good at. Magnus, meanwhile, was always good at the endgames. When I played him back in 2002, nearly ground me down in like an 80-move endgame.
Even as an 11-year-old.
Even as an 11-year-old. And now, 22 years later, still grinding away opponents, as we saw in game 1 of today's match. In the meantime, this Nimzo Indian, it's a bit of a weird pawn structure. Both sides have intruder pawns, as I call them, on each other's side. Black capturing a pawn on c4, white capturing a pawn on c5. So these pawns should fall off the board in the near future, you would think. But how do you pick them up? That is question number 1. If white gets one more move, might play queen a4 check. And, okay, that check has been blocked. I was going to say the queen could well try and grab this pawn. The alternative for white is to move this knight out the way. I'm, again, not sure where. You have a choice of squares. And the white bishop might be tasked with the job to grab on c4. Meanwhile, the black knight is doing the hunting of the white pawn. It does feel like if these pawns disappear, though, it's going to be totally symmetrical, the pawn structure. And in terms of winning chances, you don't want symmetry. That's the last thing you want. So Jan pondering if there's any alternatives right now. If there's any way to try to mix things up, muddy the waters, imbalance everything.
Question is where, yeah, he's trying to figure out, which I'm doing the same as well, is the knight better on d4 or f4? And really, it's just about your setup afterwards is what we're figuring out. Where does the knight go? Do I go to d4? Cool, that's nice. But then what are the next, 3, 4 moves to follow as well? You want to think in plans, as well, I like to teach students. Think in plans. Like, what's the plan? Knight f4, bishop takes c4, castles? Knight d4, rook g1, g4? Like, what is the plan, right? But That's what he's thinking about here. And it's a great question because if you put the knight on the wrong square, it could definitely dictate the rest of the game here. So knight g3 doesn't seem as active, but I think he may go there because he wants to maybe stop a knight e4 potentially after a bishop c3 type idea. Knight f4 is a move.
Well, he's got to move the knight out of the way, and I completely agree, James.
Right.
You have to figure out the right square for it. I also like the g3 square because you are sometimes eyeing h5 jumps as well. You know, bishop takes pawn, knight h5 after you go shut castle, and looking at some ideas on the king side. It's not an easy choice, but Jan needs to make it quickly because this is not a decisive choice. You know, you place your knight on any of these three squares. I think all are just different approaches to the position. But what you don't want to end up doing is lose a lot of time on the clock right now.
That's actually happening, in fact. I mean, not too much time, but he is thinking.
Yeah, I think I would be reluctant to put my knight on either of these two squares because I'd also be slightly afraid of being hit by the black e-pawn with gain of time. So maybe g3 is the safest for now. But yeah, this isn't Jan at its most kind of free-flowing. Normally, he's just bashing out the moves, trusting his instincts. That's the Jan that kind of has had so much success throughout his career. He does choose the g3 square. But 2 minutes down on the clock, Magnus, I'm assuming, is going to capture this pawn before it runs away, before it's too late.
All right, guys, what do you think Magnus is going to play? He may move quickly, he may not. But, of course, it is up to you to play take, take, take. Like, download take, take, take. You know, of course, when you hear take, 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 you immediately think, obviously, captures, 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 but also downloading take, take, take. You can go to go.chess.com/takex3, and then you can also use exclamation point take, take, take in chat. Go now. So, Magnus move. What do we do? Castles, knight takes c5.
You said take, take, take. I think he's got to take that pawn on c5
Take on c5.
right now.
Okay, cool.
That would be my guess, the move on take, take, take.
Black's going to take, then white's going to take this one, then black's going to take this one, then white's going to take this one.
Okay.
Then the queens will take.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, this is a position that could fizzle out if Magnus is accurate, maybe, but at the meantime, there is a big threat, pawn to b4. There's also one big trap that we should show. Black's most tempting move, at least to me at first sight, was knight to d3 check, but because now you get the bishop pair, the black queen swoops, but at the very end, whoops, loose pieces drop off. There's a double attack, a check, and it is the bishop that falls, so Magnus, of course, saves that bishop in the current position. He retreats back to the c7 square, and now he has his eyes on any checks. The white king runs away first. Castles, castles, now the white queen likely to move. White rooks will enter the center before their counterparts. It's not a big advantage, but I do think Jan should be pretty happy with the outcome of the opening because black is struggling to develop this problem piece at home, and white's rooks are coming. b4 in the air as well to kick away this knight.
I think it's... Sorry, David.
No, you go on, Tanya.
It's absolutely essential to get the pieces out for Magnus right now, right? The bishop that you pointed out, and there are two ways of doing it. You could either expand on the queen side and try to create activity with the idea of a6, b5 and put the bishop on b7, or go bishop to d7 and bishop c6 because that's the diagonal that you want it in. Magnus plays bishop d7, but for an instant I thought, 1 second, b4, and isn't the knight trapped? But then you realize that there are squares on the a file that you can move to.
Yeah, b4 would have been met by the black knight coming to a4 and trading off now that the black bishop on d7 defends that square. So instead, we see the black queen shuffle out the way. Very symmetrical, though. That surely can't be great news for Jan's winning chances in this almost must-win encounter.
But there's still a little bit something, right? Because that dark square bishop landing on b4, the piece activity, the momentum, the tempo that you can play on for as white. If you give Magnus just a couple of moves to consolidate, put the bishops on the right square, get that rook on d8, get those rook on the central lines, and then you're looking at a dead equal position. But I think the next 2 to 3 moves, James, are absolutely critical for white to create that initiative through piece activity.
Oh, hold on, Magnus is about to move. Let's see first.
Bishop's hanging, you got to move the bishop.
Okay, so your bishop b5, so now, yeah, okay.
Bishop b4, he pins it.
There's an f4 idea here, too. I can kind of push him back a little bit, f4, e4, e5 type ideas, which could be very loose for the bishop on d7. Also can play f4 and bring the bishop back to c3, threatening b4, bishop takes f6, rook d7.
But which is why it's important that right now for Magnus to be on the momentum, right? To try to create his own threats. And maybe the idea of advancing on the queen side with tempos, pushing Jan's pieces back with a6, b5 is something that comes to my mind, David.
Yeah, I was actually looking, I mean, I love your idea. I think this knight needs to just get gone. You need to kick it away. But also a5, just to break the pin. This pin is slightly uncomfortable, the only downside to black's position. So, okay, he chooses your move. He might go for that next. He wants to get rid of this bishop in the near future as well. But no immediate threat. This knight is protected. The black bishop also protected. So everything's hanging together just about for Magnus. And if Jan has to start retreating, he's not going to be too happy. Okay, there we go. He had to retreat simply. But now Magnus does. You combined our plans. We both guessed the move. You first, though. And that bishop likely to retreat.
But that's really smart of him, right? Because he didn't just push back one piece. He first pushes back the knight and then goes in with David's idea of forcing the bishop to fall back.
And look at that view. Full house here in Oslo.
Man.
Woohoo!
Whoa! And you know, there's actually the two-way mirror there is pretty fire, as you can see through, but the players can't see back out. It's a mirror for them, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. When the players look towards the audience, they just see themselves being reflected. So greatness looking back at greatness.
Absolutely.
Magnus often looks over to that side, just checking out his hair, I don't know, just admiring his position in the mirror. But either way, fantastic to see. I love those headphones, by the way. Shout out to everyone down there. But yeah, in the meantime, this, again, high-quality game so far from Jan. It's just about whether he can eke out any chances. It's definitely Magnus with the questions to answer, though. There might be some threats, positional threats at least, to gain the bishop pair if the white knight in the center jumps out the way. Yeah, Magnus spending some time.
No, I just love what we just saw, right? Because it shows how far chess has come as a spectator sport. To be there live in the audience, you can hear the commentary, you can watch your favorite players, and you can see the commentary on the Jumbotron right there. I mean, this is really the dream, right? From a couple of years ago to now, just how much progress it's made. And now from here, it's only upwards and onwards, because it feels like finally that barrier to chess becoming a spectator sport is being broken.
Yeah, and Champions Chess Tour, the future, is exciting too. It's now going to become part of the Esports World Cup. So this is just the beginning. And great to see it happening here in Oslo.
Yeah, your city.
Yeah. City is
with a live audience.
Of the world number 1, 2, Magnus Carlsen, who is thinking, doesn't look comfortable, Magnus. It's not one-way traffic. It's a very tense middle game.
Yeah, because now Jan's bishop is lined up to Magnus's bishop, and some knight jumps in the air, capturing that bishop on e5. Knight c6 could be a threat. Magnus lines up the rook on d8 for a trade. Are there any knight jumps that would bring Jan the bishop pair?
Yeah, I think Jan here frowning, a bit surprised at Magnus's last move. He's like, wait, what's happened there? You're allowing me to grab your dark squared bishop. And I think we'll see it play out on the board. But not too many options. Not too many productive moves for white, so he's likely to start trading off pieces, but it's about which pieces you trade off. If you get the bishop pair, it's a relatively open center, no pawns blocking things. So I think that is a gain for white, a small gain at least.
Jan looked up at us.
He has to maybe try to push as well. He has to maybe try to push. What do you think, f4? If f4, bishop d4, you go bishop or rook d4? That's the question.
He's fiddling with some pawns. Will he push a pawn? That is your question, James. Will he push a pawn of his own to start attacking? Big moment, bit of a crossroads. Does he play slowly, positionally, or does he try to change the pace of the game?
Yeah, big moment here. Because if I had to guess the move right now, it would be knight c6. I want that bishop pair.
There we go.
There we go, Tanya. Takes?
Takes, and...
Takes.
Yeah, I mean, it is looking good. The bishops are beautifully placed on that e5 square, the bishop on c4. I think Magnus needs to be careful in this position. Just long term, Jan has got a strategic advantage.
It's equal material, but the longer the games go on, the more the bishops gain in power. Bishop to a4 is aiming to kick this rook away to fight for the open d-file. And yeah, still, it's a long way to go. If these bishops ever get traded, the light squared bishops, then the power of the pair are somewhat dampened. But right now, yeah, I think he should just get rid of one set and then try to start improving his remaining rook. Maybe start pushing forward in the center. I'm not sure exactly how. You normally want to put your pawns on light squares if you have a dark squared bishop and your opponent doesn't. Yeah, still a long way to go, but he's at least obtained goal number 1. Small positional advantage for white.
And maybe to neutralize that, Magnus has in mind of offering that trade on b3 with his own bishop, doesn't allow it first. Jan jumps in, gets rid of those rooks. I also want to point out that pawn on a5, you know, at some point that is the undefended pawn which can be put under fire. Right now, Jan plays rook c1, bishop b3 will be met by a trade and the rook penetrating into the 7th rank.
Yeah, white's rook has potential. This position has potential for Jan, I've got to say. And if it comes down to 1 minute each, then this could really, this could be the comeback. I don't think Magnus enjoys having these slight positional deficiencies here. He doesn't like facing the bishop pair. Most of the top players love the bishops, so he knows he's just playing for 2 results at the moment. He's just trying to hold, just trying to lock things down and be solid. This is a good bishop for black, it should be said. But if the queens and rooks come off, I think Jan has great chances. Okay, he does allow an exchange of 1 set.
Okay.
He wants his queen to come in.
Voluntary offering a bishop trade. And to your point, look at Magnus. He's leaned in right now. You know, usually you see him just chilling on his chair, twirling with a piece, well, just as I say it.
A bit of a shake of the head.
What are you talking about?
Bit of shake of the head from both, actually, there. Look at them, in tandem, dancing with their heads bobbing.
Listen to the same song. You're in sync.
That would be cool, right? Just that they agree on a soundtrack together.
Just come on, bro, let's vibe.
The heart will go.
If you had to have a song on while you're playing James, which one would it be?
Have to? That's a good question. Honestly, I like classical. I'm just listening to classical music, believe it or not. It's I think there's also some studies that show that, you know, you can actually study better with classical music on. And the reason for that is because, you know, I grew up actually around, you know, OGs, old heads that are at the chess club blasting music. And talking trash and playing blitz chess. And it was fun. Grew up like that. But it's harder to play when lyrics are in your head. When someone's talking, you just can't, for me, I just cannot focus as much. Now, on stream, it's different because we're streaming and blasting music and, like, having a great time. But overall, I like to have no sound, like no words. What about you, Tanya?
I'm with you. I think you want to be completely focused. It's hard to concentrate when there's good music on because I'm so distracted with what's being said and I want to vibe to it. Hard to do many. I'm not much of a multitasker. By the way, the rook has landed on the 7th rank.
Whoa.
And that looks like a big rook there. There are a lot of weaknesses on Magnus's left side of the board. B7 pawn, A5 pawn. Has Jan managed to create chances in this one? He wins a pawn.
Wins a pawn. It's holding together as well. The white queen has to defend her bishop, but now the white rook will do the job after a trade of queens. And it's about whether Magnus can hold this. He's likely going to be a pawn down in the ensuing endgame. And Jan bobbing his head, but the white knight is a bit misplaced, unable to get into the action. So the black rook is now going to come down, maybe with a check, or maybe it's going to go pawn hunting on the b file. Either way, Jan cannot lose this one. It's just about whether he can win. He needs to win.
It's an opportunity, right? You've got this healthy pawn. You're also up on the clock by 2 minutes. He jumps in with the rook, Magnus, and now I think he wants to block the attack next on that a5 pawn by bringing his knight to the center of the board, next to where the white rook stands, blocking the connection to that queenside pawn.
Yeah, first, a dilemma, actually, for Jan. If he moves his king out of the check, then the black rook steps up with a double attack on 2 separate pawns. But the only way to keep the f-pawn defended is to self-pin and drop the white knight back to block this check. Hence the reason he's spending 30 seconds on what looks like a simple check. Okay, he does ultimately drop back. Oh. Yeah, it's never nice to pin your own pieces, right?
And wow, he pushes the a-pawn. I was expecting the knight to jump into activity, but now the white rook can also line up against that a4 pawn. How are you defending this after rook a5?
Guess once the white rook moves, the black knight might start jumping towards the white knight. The pin is very awkward, so he pushes his own pawns forward. He's getting ready to move his king off the back rank. Really classy move. In an endgame, a pawn on g4 often has a nice clamping effect as well.
That's a very nice point. The rook goes away, knight e4, knight d2 would have been very, very deadly. So he wants to first unpin by improving his own king. But that a4 pawn, if Jan can get to it at any time, that would be just game over with these 2 passes on the queen side.
Yeah, and Magnus can go for white's weakest pawn. That is the b pawn, sitting on b2. But that does give Jan a free hand. The white rook will suddenly be able to move a pawns, especially if the rooks ever come off. Knights are so bad at stopping those pawns running. We saw that in Jan's semi-final yesterday against Firouzja. So many knight endgames there, and it was always about the a and h pawns running down the board. So Magnus still with some big questions to answer. He tries to block the white rook out, meanwhile, but the white rook can slide back 1 square.
Probably going to do that.
And then I think black rook slides over to the b pawn as well. So you're going to end up trading the b pawn for the a pawn. And still a very healthy extra pawn for white, you know, and that a-pawn, once it starts rolling up the board, we've seen it. And you said it, David, against that knight, a very tough pawn to keep defended and keep under control. Jan needs to activate his knight, and I think he's about to do just that. He brings it towards the center of the board. Magnus combining his own rook and knight to create some threats here.
Yeah, the black knight and rook are so active, but they do lack, especially the black knight, kind of stable squares. So can Jan hold it? Oh, he's trading off the knight to Magnus. He's forcing a rook and pawn endgame.
Yeah,
Very clever.
This is quite. It should be a draw, but obviously I have the extra pawn. But you know, it's not easy to draw, but it is very possible to draw due to the rook being behind the a pawn there. White can maybe create something on the king side, but I think Magnus is not too mad about it.
You know, it should be a draw, never ends well in commentary, James. And you said black's rook is nicely placed behind the white pawn, but also the white rook gets in front of it. And now the whole idea is, does white have enough time to get the king to the other side of the board? Is this closer to a draw or a Jan win, David?
Well, I studied this exact endgame without the e-pawns on the board, when it's 3 versus 3 on the same side, and that is a draw, and quite, well, I would say quite a relatively straightforward one at the top level, but with extra pawns on the board, it normally helps the side with the extra material. That is Jan Nepomniachtchi right now. It will be a race. The white king will start to run sooner or later, but first he's pushing his pawn as far down the board as possible.
But if you push it one more step ahead, then it's just a draw. Theoretically improving, because your aim is to get that king to that a7 square in front of the pawn. You need that shelter for it to survive. So Jan, he pauses now. How does he improve the position of his king? That's the big question. Meanwhile, time trouble also approaching.
Maybe king g2 and you run all the way around. King g2, king g1, all the way to b1, run the king up. That's the general thing. But you have to be careful of hanging the f pawn. So he's trying to figure out all that out. And king f3 might be answered with an f5 to try to restrict the king. So king g2, and then maybe get the king to f1, maybe e1, play f3.
Whoa.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was not.
Surprise you, David?
Definitely surprising.
Very surprising. The white rook is totally frozen now. That being said, the black rook is also frozen, can never move off the A line. It can only kind of step forward and back now, can never go across to grab any white pawns.
Whoa.
Okay, the eval bar approves of Jan's decision, but he should stop trading now. He needs to fix the structure on the king side.
H5 or something?
Keep as many pawns on as possible.
I'm so surprised, because usually, traditionally in these endgames, you just don't push the a-pawn, but Jan clearly knows what he's doing. We saw the bar say that this is the best move in the position. He doesn't trade. He says, Magnus, you take on h4, I destroy your pawn formation. That pawn is a lying duck for my king to pick up anyway. Magnus just playing the waiting game now.
Yeah, it's so hard to make progress with white. It's just so hard, because like you're always going to get the what is it, the Philidor position checks, basically, on A1, B1, C1, wherever you run the king, when you go up to B6 or B7 or C7, anywhere up there. So how do you make progress exactly is the question. Maybe it goes, yeah.
That last move by Jan, right? It made a weakness of the e3 pawn. Doesn't allow the white king to actually come for the h4 pawn. And now how do you improve this? Your king is tied down to defending that h pawn that Magnus has.
That's a good move. E5 was sick, boy. That was nice.
Now the black rook giving a check. It's simply going to come back on the next move. Actually, he's going to continue checking the white king. And the white king's never going to step across. This is bizarre what Jan has done, to be honest. He should have just pushed his pawn to h5. Well, he could have done. Now this black h-pawn is a real thorn, tying down the white king. The white rook cannot move. This game is going to end any moment.
Yep, there it is.
It's a draw.
Wow. A missed opportunity by Jan. You know, he was the one pushing with the white pieces, had that extra pawn. But in this endgame, technique, some inaccuracies there, and Magnus Carlsen showing incredible defense, sacrificing his pawn on e5.
Yeah.
Magnus not very keen on analyzing too much. Fatigue, energy is such a big factor right now. But Jan, he does draw, he keeps the match alive, but now Magnus needs only a draw, James.
Yeah.
To clinch the title.
It's kind of like Armageddon game. And like oh, shoot, when I'm playing now with white, if I find a perpetual, guess what? I'm taking it, right? Any type of tactic. I don't have to play for a win here. I don't have to play anything crazy. I can do whatever I want, especially with the white pieces here, and try to play, very slowly, make it as close to a draw as I can. But play for a win, play for a draw, you play for a win. That's how he does it. He's half a point away from clinching it.
Yeah, he's so close now. Magnus to victory, but again, riding his luck slightly. Jan doing all the right things, putting all the pressure on. And let's just check out one moment there where Jan potentially could have tried to improve, could have applied more pressure to the world number one. And first of all, just a tip for everyone at home, a really classy decision from Magnus. When you're a pawn down often seeking safety, seeking refuge in a rook endgame is the best bet. With knights on the board, there's going to be tactics, there's going to be tricks, which is only going to favor the side with the extra material here. So knight to e2 check, getting the knights off the board. Despite the question mark, I think a very good practical decision. And if we actually fast forward to later on, just a few moves down the line, the white pawn had pushed itself all the way to a7. Normally not a good idea. The white king normally needs a square to hide in front of its own pawn. Now, any time the white king moves over, it will be checked from behind. No hiding spots for it. But here, Jan let the final opportunity slip. He needed to push his pawn forward, keep more pawns involved. Next, no matter what black does, for example, move the king, you can push your f-pawn forward. Same thing as the game. Later, the idea is to bring the king across, to kick the black rook away, and then to start marching up the board and to hope to eventually start gravitating towards the black king side. You have all the time in the world. This would have been a long, long battle for survival for Magnus Carlsen. Instead, Jan very impatiently pushed his f-pawn forward and suddenly realized after pawn takes h4, there was no way to regain the pawn. The white king could not step forward because a pawn would drop with a check before the black rook goes back. And instead, after pawn to e4, we saw Jan unable to make progress after Magnus simply blocked the structure in the center. We saw some checks, the position repeated itself, and a handshake. Big missed opportunity by Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Tanya?
Yeah, it felt like a big missed opportunity to make Magnus sweat some more. You know, it's the kind of endgame that you can play on and on. How many times we've seen Magnus be on the right side of this and grind this down, you know, even if it is a technical draw. It just felt like it fizzled out a little too soon. Magnus did not have to work that hard for the draw. And these are the things that really come to play in matches, you know, because they play with your mind. And I think for Jan, whether it would have anyway ended in a draw is not the thing, but I think he could have tried harder, and that's the point. Posed more problems, David.
Exactly. Tired Magnus out, both physically by sitting at the board, you know, making moves with a few seconds left, but also psychologically, Magnus fighting for his life in that game. I think if colours were reversed, roles were reversed, Magnus would have enjoyed the torture that should probably have happened.
That's torture.
150 moves at least.
At least play it on right. No, that's fun. And wait for him to crack. But of course, Magnus Carlsen is half a point away from winning. So we're gonna go to Game 5, but we're gonna take a break first, of course, and talk about the Rubik's Cube is celebrating 50 years with Make Your Move campaign. In those 50 years, Rubik's Cubes have been spread across the entire world, with 1 in 7 people attempting to solve the puzzle. Like chess, the art of Rubik's Cubes is its complexity and the internal human values of curiosity, perseverance, and creativity. With over 43 quintillion permutations and only one solution, what is your next move? Visit go.chess.com/Rubik's50 or use !Rubik's in chat to explore. Game 5 is on the way, with the reigning champ only half a point away from taking the title. In the break, you can learn a bit more about many of the CCT's partners, and when we return, Game 5 of the final between Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi. We'll be right back, guys.
All I ever wanted was like to be accepted by people and this and that. But I'm walking in hip hop, solving Rubik's Cubes and talking about anime and Star Wars, and it's like not a vibe. But through it, I was always myself. Oh man, the feeling I had the first time I saw the Rubik's Cube was like, it's only begun. Because I was like, it took me that long to do it. And I just wasn't satisfied. Then I'm like, okay, cool, what's next? And that's also how I feel about chess. I love chess and I love the Rubik's Cube because you can't beat them. It's like a game you can't beat. That's what's so cool about it. And the only person that you're really essentially playing against is yourself. Yeah, I was like 24 years old and I got a Rubik's Cube and I went on YouTube and I told myself I was not gonna leave the room until I finished it. And I was in the room for 14 hours.
Starting battle.
Welcome back to Annie Chess. AnyChess is modernizing chess by infusing the timeless game with an innovative spell mechanic. Players can compete against each other, participate in tournaments, and craft their own spells to battle and climb the ranks. All classical chess rules apply, but can be overridden by spell mechanics.
Invisible march, a strategic
The knight on
arch.
h6 used shot in the dark, moving it invisibly for one turn. And meanwhile, white used house recruit to spawn a
Clear
pawn.
the ground with a single bound.
White uses Bisshop 2.0, launching the bishop over a pawn to capture.
Invisible march, a strategic arch.
Shot in the dark allows black to win by Kingsley. Push your chess limits. Try spell chess in the AnyChess Open Alpha.
It's not just a game. It's a sport.
And its time, it felt like one.
The anticipation.
The intensity, the fire. Participate. Get closer to the action.
Feel every move.
Live every moment.
Well, what do I do now?
No, not that move. That was so great.
The game's not changed.
But the experience has.
There's no going back.
Hundreds of thousands of kids have used the Crunch Labs Build Box to learn how to create and build stuff while having a ton of fun at the same time. But what about something for teenagers and adults, where they can learn all the tools and tricks I use to create the builds on my channel? Well, I'm happy to say, starting today, that exists now. And this is it. It's called Hack Pack, and it's basically a series of really fun programmable robots that get delivered right to your door, where we build it together and learn step by step the kinds of engineering skills that go into making the builds on my channel. And don't be intimidated, because all these use a programmable microcontroller as the brain. Because if you can put together a Lego set, you can put together this. And it will work right out of the box. No programming required, and it will still be really fun. Heck yeah.
In the heart of Oslo, the chess world has converged to witness a clash of titans in the ultimate battle of wit, the Champions Chess Tour.
Oh my god!
And Magnus cannot believe it!
From across the globe, the greatest minds of this ancient game have arrived. From the suburbs of Minneapolis to the cobbled streets of Paris, from the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains to the banks of the Rhine, the world is watching the Tiger City. At the helm stands Norway's pride and the tour's undisputed king, Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus Carlsen takes the win. He books his place in the final.
But the hometown hero can't rest easy. The two-time world championship contender, Jan Nepomniachtchi, is here to take Carlsen's crown.
This is some incredible form we are seeing by Jan Nepomniachtchi.
This is a battle of minds. Every move is a masterpiece in the making. It's the climax of the biggest online chess event of the year. The Champions Chess Tour final decides who is the king of rapid chess.
Oh my gosh!
He blundered me.
Oh my goodness!
It's the Champions Chess Tour finals, live from Oslo, Norway, and it starts right now.
It is holiday season here. Of course, it's snowing outside and it is cold. No, it's not that cold, but it is holiday season here in Oslo, Norway, and Magnus should be in high spirits as he is only a half a point away from winning. Welcome back to the final match of the 2024 CCT Final. I'm James Canty III. I'm here with David Howe and Tanya Sachdev. Is Nepo still in this? What do you think? What do you think he has to do?
I mean, this is it, right? This is the round. It's a must-win for Jan Nepomniachtchi. He Is he in it? Barely would be my answer, because Magnus starts with the white pieces. He needs only a draw to clinch this. I think this last game where Jan had his chances in the rook pawn ending, I was at least hoping to see him push this out till the very end and create some big problems. But now this is an uphill task for Jan to even take it to game 6. I mean, I hope it goes down to the wire. So David, I don't know how you see his chances with Magnus playing with white and needing only a draw.
Yeah, I mean, having the black pieces against the greatest player in history, that's literally doesn't get much tougher than that. But if he does get this game, he'll have white in the final one, Jan, and then we might start to believe in the comeback. Ultimately, he's had 2 great games in a row, Jan, but still hasn't been able to land that killer punch on Magnus. Will it be third time lucky? He needs to play in the same vein of form, but just needs that little bit of luck at the key moments.
He has to win, which is the problem here. Like, you know,
with black.
With black, you know, how do we do that, David? What do we do? You have to win with black
against Magnus.
What do you play? What's the move?
If I knew, I wouldn't be sitting here. I would be downstairs.
Okay. So there's no way, is what you're saying. No, but it is possible. Still, maybe he has to make some opening choices that are a little bit different, and we'll see what happens with that. But of course, Mike Klein is with Magnus, so let's see what they had to say over there.
Back with Magnus Carlsen, who enjoys a 3-1 lead. Now, Game 3 was crazy. How did you spend that 5 minutes after Game 3? Did you look back at that, 87-move game?
No, I don't know what to say. I mean, it was just a lot of back and forth, crazy things happened there. This game was kind of more normal. I just was desperately trying to hold on. And, I managed. Maybe I could have done better. Who knows? He could have done better. Who knows?
Yeah, once you traded knights, did you have any fear at all that endgame was not drawn?
Yeah, I thought there was a serious chance that he might win, but I thought it was my best chance.
Okay, 2 tough draws. Magnus only needs 1 draw in the final 2 games to clinch it. Thanks for your time, Magnus. Back to you in the studio.
Well, only half a point. That's it. Of course, with white, I mean, he's already been showing that he can kind of play anything, E4, D4, just get a position, play in, wait for the mistake, as he was able to do so far, even making it all the way this far.
Yeah, it stands at 3-1, 3.5 wins the championship. It's going to be really tough. I mean, how do you even make your chances? And there we've got our live arena. What's up, guys? And it's Magnus who arrives first to the board this time. That's why the applause. And he's got the headsets on. Probably Jan back in there thinking, how with black will he create? Where will he find his best opportunity? Because it's Sicilian. We've seen that being dismissed by a third C3, by a 3-move C3, and Alipin. Never easy. Magnus adjusting his playlist. Whoa, we've got a bit of a sync going on there.
This is it. Jan Nepomniachtchi makes his way to the stage. Will it be for the final time that he sits down at the chessboard in the Champions Chess Tour Finals? Look at that, the audience now. The anticipation growing, I'm hoping, out there. Yeah, it's all eyes on Jan Nepomniachtchi. He needs something a bit special. Maybe it is a Sicilian, a dynamic Sicilian. He did get winning chances in his last black game. Was on the brink there. Just 1 or 2 accurate moves away. Ultimately, though, it is guaranteed to be a fight this next game, Game 5.
A loss is as good as a draw for Jan Nepomniachtchi, so he has to throw everything at Magnus Carlsen. Pieces being adjusted. What will be Magnus's first move? Will he invite the combative play with a king's pawn opening? Will he keep it solid with the reti or the queen's pawn opening? What is going on in the world number 1's head right now?
Oh, he tends to open with his king's pawn when he's happy with just a draw, Magnus. We've seen that throughout the years in World Championship matches. This, of course, a big game for him. He goes to D4 this time. As the round of applause down there in the arena, forcing Jan Nepomniachtchi to think.
E6, nice. Okay, that's nice. If E4, we get a French, which is cagey. And there we are. Okay. Knight C3. Knight of 6. Here we go.
The French defense, it's got a bit of a repetition right at the top, but in the World Championship match, we saw it so many times. It was Ding Liren's repertoire against the white pieces, and we might be seeing it a lot more at the top level played on. Magnus himself has never been a fan of the French.
He's never been too much of a fan of the French. He's dabbled with both colours, of course. I'm really shocked, I've got to say, to see Magnus avoid the exchange variation. In the meantime, though, he's clearly been paying attention to the World Chess Championship, Gukesh against Ding, because that A3 move on the previous turn that Magnus just played was played by Gukesh with success in the World Championship match. He got a great position later in that game. And we see the White Knight's a bit clumsy, but White has won Connect 4, so has occupied the center, solidified the center. In the meantime, Jan is fighting against this central strategy with a wing strategy, maybe aiming to bring his knight in a bit later.
So Magnus not the only one who's been paying attention to the World Championship match, and Jan also figuring out the right way to respond to this fresh idea that Team Gukesh had come up with in that match, pushing that a3 pawn. And this, I think, is a new position already, right? Magnus, he goes in with the king side, pushes that h pawn, targeting the queen on the other side. There's so much going on both flanks here, David, but general strategy for White is to play on the right side of the board. It is the pawn pointing theorem. We see that big pawn chain that Magnus has. It points towards the right side, towards the king side, which means in the future we can see an attack developing there.
Definitely. And White's already hinted at that, Magnus, with the AlphaZero-esque neural network suggestion of pushing the h-pawn forward. You often actually develop your rook kind of up the board. You lift it. Of course you do. And yeah, it's just hard to develop the king, kind of get it to safety, hard to castle, hard to get the bishop out either. And Jan keeps his options open. I wonder whether he'll be tempted by a different type of pawn break. f6 in the air. Okay, Magnus, in the meantime, improves his bishop.
Yeah, and this whole idea of the knight retreating back to e2, that was a b1 knight. Let's remind everyone, that's not the king side knight that's landed up there. It all revolves around solidifying the d4 square, the soul of White's pawn center, and then eventually transferring that knight to the king side. Again, this was an idea that we saw by Team Gukesh many times against the French in the World Championship. James, so fascinating that the match just finished, and Magnus has employed two of those novelties by Gukesh in the Champions Chess Tour. We saw him play Rook E1 yesterday and the A3 against the French today.
I mean, this stuff's been worked out. He had seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths working with him. Of course, the stuff's got to work. So, you know, he's like, I'm just going to play it and see what he does. And, it, you know, it's nice because A3 stops a lot of Black's ideas on the queen side, especially with his A-pawn pushing all the way down to A3. You also can play B4. This is sometimes reminiscent of a Milner-Berry as well, where you'll see a lot in advanced variations here. I like the knight on F4, stops the F-pawn from pushing. Bishop comes into D3, and you have yourself a Greek gift if he's not careful. Bishop D3, bishop takes H7, knight G5, mate in 12. Max.
Wow, and let's show this because I'm actually shocked. I mean, I've been shocked a lot on the Champions Chess Tour, but black castling, that's the one thing you're not supposed to do in this type of position because the black king has no shelter around it. If, for example, now Jan tries, I don't know, queen to A5,
or something, yeah.
You just ignore it. Bishop to D3, right? And talk us through this checkmate, James.
King takes D4, bishop takes H7, king takes, queen H5, or sorry, yeah, knight G5, king G8, queen H5. Even bishop takes, doesn't matter, however you want to do it. Queen H5, bishop takes, pawn takes, push the pawn, G6 first, and then mate.
I mean, it's so simple.
Clinical.
Yeah. Whoa, and this would be absolute disaster. So Jan desperately trying to get the queens off the board. Magnus, will he find the way to keep them on? He does. And look at that king. You pointed it out, right? Going shot castle in this position. All of Jan's forces are on the left side of the board. Offside, far away from getting to the defense of that black king. The knights, the bishops, the queen, and the rook. Meanwhile, all of Magnus's army has directed itself to that right side. That has got to be danger, danger zone. Queens on. This might be a miniature coming in.
Oh, this is terrifying. The white queen has been deflected away from that checkmating pattern, but only temporarily. So the white bishop will come to D3, might even take a kind of shimmy back to kick away the black queen, and then we might see that type of sacrifice emerge. And yeah, I mean, I was commentating on one of those games in the World Championship match. This is literally the one thing that Ding was trying to avoid at all costs, and now Jan's walked into it.
Same. We were doing the commentary as well, and when we saw this position, we kept talking about how you just don't go shot castle in this because the king is in such big danger zone. And Ding did that to perfection. He castled much, much later on in the game, kept it in the center because it happens to be a lot safer there, you know, not deciding where exactly to. You don't show your hands which side you castle. But this is Jan Nepomniachtchi asking for big trouble. And what surprises me is also that Jan was definitely following the match. There's no way that he didn't see that game.
Yeah, ultimately, it's a bit like game 2 of today's match. A bit of an opening slip-up. And already, is there a way back into this game for Jan? That's the big question. Remember, game 2, he played the Italian. 5 moves later, he was pretty much lost, facing a scary attack. And again, lightning has struck twice here. He's down 2.5 minutes on the clock, or 3 minutes even on the clock at this point. and he just needs to survive. I don't know how he's going to do that. Big challenge ahead of Jan Nepomniachtchi to stay in this match.
David, he has to win this game to stay in this match. And look at the position that you've got. You know, you're already looking at tactics, and Jan with a shake of his head.
Jeez, what move is this? Shaking head? 14? Dang.
He immediately realizes the danger that he has walked into. Just that hasty decision of making that hand move of castling. Pawn takes pawn, expecting Magnus to recapture with his own pawn, keeping the center solid. The next few moves are so easy for Magnus, right? Get the bishop out to d3, put that bishop back, kick the queen out, jump with the knight to g5.
Look at that bar rising. It's almost sky high now in Magnus's favor, and it's level material. He's about to play the most natural move. He brings his bishop out, that bishop defended by one of White's knights. Pointing at the black king, everything's pointing. The white rook on h1 in the corner there on the right side might just lift up as well. The black queen is a target, and black's play, meanwhile, again, just wrong side of the board. The white structure cuts the board in half, and wow, Jan is even touching pawns in front of his own king. That's what not to do in these positions. Never touch pawns on the side you're weaker. That's the advice. Will it backfire?
And look at Magnus, he's ready with the battery. The queen and the bishop is lined up against that hook that Jan has just created on h6. Now there are all kinds of sacrifices on that square, and you can hear Jan. He can't believe it. He's breathing so heavy in this position right now. James, there are all kinds of tactics. The rook lift, move that bishop away, hit that black queen, knight out of the way, bishop takes pawn in the air. I can imagine your spidey sense is tingling right now.
Absolutely. In fact, my tactic senses are always tingling. In fact, as bishop c2 is nice, then maybe queen b6. Maybe he tries queen c4 because that might keep the queen tied down. The problem here is what I was going for is after bishop c2, play knight h5, and then bishop takes h6. You could even go rook h3, rook g3. You can even go g4, g5. It's really a matter of taste here. I think bishop c2 is nice, so with this knight h5 idea, and literally all of my pieces are pointing. Bishop c2, yeah, rook h3. So, I mean, it's just a matter of what do I want to pick. Rook h3, and I think this is probably maybe one of the best because you do develop, you get more pieces into the attack. The more pieces I have, the better. Knight c4, maybe rook g3 anyway. Just don't care about it.
Bring everything. Rook g3, knight h5 just looks like game over right now. You take that bishop on e3, White will recapture with the queen. He first kicks the black queen out. But rook g3 has got to be the follow-up here. And imagine that rook and knight combining against threats on the g7 pawn. I don't see Jan surviving this one.
This is going to be an early knockout. This is going to be an early end to the final. We've seen the shaking of the head. This is so one-sided, and this is what happens in must-win situations. It changes the mindset. You take bigger risks than you normally would, and Jan just made one mistake in this game. He castled too early. It's a blocked pawn structure. The white knight is coming now. Big threat on the board. Bishop takes pawn, followed by the white queen incursion here.
It's funny that you said that, David. So he was like, I mean, he just made one mistake. He just, you know, he castled his king, which is a thing you're supposed to do, right? Safety of the king, and it loses almost immediately.
And the crowd, you know, applauding. I think they're pre-moving bishop takes pawn right now on the board, or the rook move that you're talking about, because I think Jan has to trade that bishop off. Bishop takes pawn would be game over. This is looking so busted for that black king. Notice how all of Jan's pieces are so far away from getting to the defense. That e5 pawn stopping any piece to arrive on f6. Jan looking away. He's disgusted with the position on the board. How do you even defend this for the next few moves?
Yikes.
You don't. I think it's that simple. We see the shaking of the head. He's down under 4 minutes now, Jan Nepomniachtchi. He might just try to go down in flames here. There's simply nothing to do. You don't want to get checkmated, of course. You don't want to be remembered for a checkmate in the final of a big event like this, but it's inevitable. It's too late. He castled into the firing line. No way back.
He literally castled into getting checkmated. You know, you castled to get your king to safety, but this was the most unsafe position for the king. Jan knows it, Magnus knows it. These are the last few moments of the Champions Chess Tour Finals.
Yeah, Magnus, he has so many ways to cash in, to break through towards that black king, which is devoid of defenders.
How is this guy?
Ringing out again.
They're like, yo, resign, bro. Like, this is hilarious. It's great to have the live audience, too. It's amazing. But, yeah, I mean, it's just clearly over here. Nothing. And black has no pieces really developed on the back rank. I mean, you have the bishop. Okay, you have you have knight and bishop on e7 are developed, but it's really it. It's nothing else. How do you stop this attack? You just don't. Bishop takes h6 is coming. You can try knight takes e3. That's fine. I go queen takes and maybe a queen b3, trying to trade the queens off.
Do you think he's going to resign?
I think he might be tempted. He's fighting every urge in his body to resign, Jan Nepomniachtchi. If this weren't the final game, I think we might have already seen a handshake and Jan moving on.
It's 2.5 minutes. He does make a move, takes that bishop, will be recaptured by the queen. The rook is lining up next. Jan trying to break free with that move f5. You could bring the rook into the attack. Rook g3, f4 is guarded, g7 under fire, h6 under fire, Jan's king under fire.
That's a resi on the spot. Rook f7, queen h2. That's the resi, sir. Yikes. Brilliant. Very quick game.
It's coming. The white queen now captures a pawn. There's a pin here. He defends with all his might, all of his remaining strength in the finals here. Jan Nepomniachtchi, he's got the big square covered.
Is knight g5? We sacked the queen. Knight takes c6. No, not yet.
It's coming in next. He simply sidesteps. There's no attack on the queen. Knight g5.
And it's a handshake. Magnus Carlsen wins the 2024 Champions Chess Tour Finals. Nepomniachtchi there going down in flames. It was Magnus, of course it was, for the 5th year in a row. So impressive.
Like game 3 was like very easy. Game 3. And actually, like sometimes in game 4, like if you go h5, but now I push h5 and it brings me king to e7. I mean, you have to, because king g7, and then play f4, takes, and here you have... No, you cannot. You should do it. I'm not sure. F5?
But I can go e5 before at some point.
E5 before, but no, then it's too far, I guess, huh? Then you just go with the king, no? Or king f5, whatever. What do you mean?
How do you get king?
I mean, if you're in time like e4,
maybe,
yeah, maybe, whatever.
Maybe. But I mean, you put the king on e7 and then you play e4. Sorry,
Then play f4, takes, and with rook on e6 if you're in play f6. Otherwise, it's lost.
How is lost after e5?
No, if somehow it says. I mean, I don't know.
Okay,
it
maybe
it's
it
lost.
was some g5.
It says it's lost, yeah, but I'm not sure. Okay. Where's again?
Yeah, thanks.
Wow. What a showing there. What a decisive last game there. That was just crazy. A crush there of the French defense. Be very careful at home when you're playing that opening. As you see, the final is just lit up there. Very shiny. Magnus Carlsen wins in 5 games here. 4-1. Nice job. Awesome stuff from Magnus.
The GOAT does it again, this time in front of his home crowd. His 5th time, a legacy unmatched in the Champions Chess Tour. Magnus Carlsen, he's just unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable. The king of the Champions Chess Tour.
Undeniable, unbeatable, unseatable.
On everything.
Exactly, right. Very good stuff here from Magnus. Just winning it again, as he always does here. So, David, what do you have for us from that game?
Well, for Magnus, it was the decisive game. He made his move. He won the Champions Chess Tour. And now it's the time to check out our Rubik's Make Your Move of the day. And for today's Rubik's Make Your Move, it's what not to do. What move not to make? It's castling into the firing line here, castling into the eye of the storm. The black king is actually very safe in the center of the board. It's totally locked up. A bit Rubik's Cube-esque here in the center. White has these 4 beautiful pawns. Black, meanwhile, with a great pawn chain. The center is the safest hiding spot. In the meantime, though, he castled Jan Nepomniachtchi, the disastrous move in this final 5th game even. And after knight to f4, the white pieces started gathering. The storm clouds started gathering around the black king. It was here, the white bishop landing first, threatening some nasty checks, nasty sacrifices. And a couple of moves later, after Jan pushed his pawn forward, maybe making things even worse, the white rook arrived. And it's not just 1, it's not just 2, it is actually 6 attacking pieces here for white. 0 defenders around the black king. And the closing stages were really instructive. First, a kickback of the black queen. Then the white knight arrived, and after the white rook pinned this pawn, attacked this pawn, it was the white queen that delivered the killer blow. A capture, this pawn pinned. The black bishop tried to defend, but a simple sidestep by Magnus Carlsen, the killer move in the end. And white's knight is coming, checkmate, inevitable. Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned. Castles was the move not to play, but if you're wondering what your next move is, then visit go.chess.com/Rubik's50 or use !Rubik's in the chat to explore.
Wow, that is amazing. That's crazy. I mean, what a finish. finishing on a very high note there with a very aggressive attack here. So let's talk about the final standings here, presented by Julius Baer, the official wealth management partner of the Champions Chess Tour. So the $500,000 in the final isn't even all the money distributed, but it's a nice paycheck for Magnus. Of course, that's a lot of money, isn't it? A lot of
drinks on him tonight.
Yes, of course. Thank you to Julius Baer, founding partner of the CCT and official wealth management partner of the tour. And thank you for your continued support here. So how you, me, and Tanya, we're going to be joining the closing ceremony. That's going to be hype.
Yeah, it's going to happen downstairs with the live audience, with the crowd. I think they're waiting for their king to be crowned once again the winner of the Champions Chess Tour. But that performance, this entire performance, I think today, start to finish, was pure destruction by Magnus. It was a complete Magnus show. You know, taking the lead 2-0 at the beginning. I think it's not just the last game, David, but just the way the match started, losing that first game. And I think the narrative began from there. It was just very, very difficult for Jan to come back from that 2-point deficit. And what we saw, the destruction, the absolute masterclass in that last game, was just an outcome of the beginning of the match.
Yeah, again, tiny margins, really fine margins at this top level. If it had turned differently, if he saved the first rook endgame, it would have been a totally different match. If Jan was able to cash in on his advantages in games 3 and 4, totally different match. But ultimately, Magnus upped his level so much from yesterday, top gear today. It was hard to compete.
Yeah, of course. It's you know, one thing with Magnus is it's just incredible to watch him play. It's incredible to see everything that and how inspiring it is when we watch him play and stuff like that too as well. So, what do you think Jan could have did a little bit different here if we had to pick one thing from Jan?
Queen takes f2 in game 1. No, I mean it's hard to say, right? Game 1, once that one disappeared, it's hard to offer any advice.
I just think the best version of Magnus Carlsen showed up today. You know, he'd been building up to this. He's been critical about his gameplay so far in the Champions Chess Tour, in spite of getting the job done every single match, every single game. He only lost to Alireza throughout. Apart from that, a dub every way, all the way through. But yet Magnus felt that he needed to up his level. And I think he did. Once again, a big stage player, you know, when the stakes are the highest, somehow the best in him always comes out, and that's a tough Magnus to fight against.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to Julius Baer, a founding partner of the CCT and the official wealth partner, management partner of the tour. Thank you for your continued support. Let's take a look what we have up here. Final standings: Magnus Carlsen, $206,000. Jan Nepomniachtchi, 105 of those big things, 105,000. Alireza, 55K. MVL, 52,000. Denis Lazavik, the kid, 29,000. Vincent Keymer with 22K. Wow, that's a big payday as well. Levon Aronian, 17,000. And Wesley So with 14K as well. Man, that's going to be nice. That's a lot of money. What are we doing with this money here, David, Tanya?
I think this is such incredible support, and, you know, huge shout out to our partners, and especially we saw that Denis and Vincent, you know, they're going back with a big check as well. And I think that goes such a long way in their chess journey, because that's the money that then they put back into the game, into training, playing the kind of tournaments that they need to really step up their game, where, you know, they've shown that they belong here. They've shown that they qualify for these tournaments. But to get that experience, to take it all the way through, I think it's exactly this kind of support that's required for it.
Yeah, and hopefully this inspires some young viewers at home, some young aspiring players, future grandmasters potentially. Chess is a viable career if you do commit, if you do work hard. I mean, these are the potential rewards, and it's only going to get better. Chess is going to be part of the Esports World Cup next year. How thrilling is that?
Nice. That's so nice. Wow, there's just so much coming for you guys. I mean, just keep playing, keep playing, keep having positive spirits, keep working, and keep grinding. That's nice. So, winner has been decided.
Surprise, surprise.
That's right, exactly. Magnus Carlsen? No.
We thought that would happen.
We'll be having closing ceremony and an interview with Magnus Carlsen. We're going to go on a short break, but don't go anywhere, and we'll be back soon enough.
Okay, so we're gonna set the board up. We've got a few fun puzzles for you.
Wow. Even to win. Amazing.
Okay, okay. I'm looking for some secret here.
Well, I mean, let's say if I double it right now, like if we play, let's say, rook h1, and I guess black simply takes on f6, and that's not much could be done.
Oh yeah, I think you guys got me with this one. I mean, it's not that easy as I thought it would be.
The position is correct, yeah?
What happens? There's a rook g6, f takes g, f7. Shouldn't be the solution, I feel.
So if we start with some checks like knight h6, king d8, it makes like 0 sense. King d8, queen d6, knight h7, queen h7, king h7, checking.
Oh, sorry, rook takes one. Nice, the right one.
Actually, knight d4, queen d7, rook h1, knight f6 here.
Check. This one is here.
Very nice. Wow.
I can get the next 4.
Good stuff.
Oh, I see. Rook g6, then knight g5, and knight h6. Yeah. Rook g6, fg, queen h7, or hg, queen h7. Yeah. Takes, f takes g, or h takes g. Doesn't really matter. Then queen takes, king takes, and then black gets mated. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Good job. There you go. We got it. Well done.
Nice. Well, so I have to remove my rook from g5. So that's how I play rook g6 probably, yeah, because otherwise king goes. Okay, then rook g6 and then, okay, like in the draws, yeah, like check, and mate. Okay, so rook g6 and then a bunch of checks.
Very good.
Yeah!
Okay, so we're gonna set the board up. We've got a few fun puzzles for you.
Oh, white to play and win?
Yeah, white to play and win.
My first thought was bishop d6 rook takes, but it doesn't seem to help.
Okay, bishop d6, rook c8 makes not so much sense because rook c8 and then rook d1. So we need something more smart.
Bishop d6, this one, but then he just takes. Yeah, bishop d6 doesn't work. So check, king e6.
Most natural would be queen g3 check. Because if king a8, now I have queen e3 and I set up my own back rank.
Bishop.
It's not so simple. You know, how to save some pieces, especially if we want to win later on.
Most natural would be queen g3 check. So then comes king c8, of course.
So Jan, after queen g3, black moves the king to c8. What?
Queen g4, queen takes bishop a7, king d7, rook d2, and rook c1.
Nailed it.
Yes, correct.
Bishop a7, king d7, check, mate. Very beautiful.
Very nice. Something like queen g4, yeah, like queen g4, bishop e7, rook d2, rook c1. No, but that's like super simple. I mean, but my problem is that I wouldn't see that queen e3 works after king a8.
Do you want to keep going for more?
Of course. until I solve this next puzzle. It's finally for 1600s, yeah?
Hello, Oslo! Welcome, everyone. This is the moment we've all been waiting for to crown the king of the Champions Chess Tour. And before we get to that, a big shout out to our incredible, lovely live audience. You guys have been awesome. A packed house every day, so much energy. Thank you so much for all of that. And here on the stage with me, I've got the commissioner of the Champions Chess Tour, Michael Brancato. Michael, you've been such a core part of the innovations at the tour. And seeing all this being played out, the finals, the in-person finals, in front of an incredible live audience, how special is this?
Yeah, it's been incredible. A really amazing week and really a dream in the making, not only for myself, but also the whole Chess.com team that's here making this happen. And it's also really meaningful that we can put on such a top-level event while doing all these new things to really bring the audience experience to life and let fans voice their excitement right in front of the players. It's been a really special thing.
It has been incredibly special. And Michael, what's the future like for Champions Chess Tour? What can we expect in 2025?
Well, I'm really excited that the Champions Chess Tour is partnering with the Esports World Cup for next year, and I can't wait to see chess on an even bigger stage next year.
We can't wait. Thank you so much, Michael, for this incredible show that you and your team have put on. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please give it up for the winner of the Champions Chess Tour, the world #1, Magnus Carlsen. Magnus, I think the energy here is so electric, the atmosphere amazing. I'm going to leave the floor open to you. What would you like to say firstly to your fans, and how does this moment feel?
Yeah, of course it feels great. Today was a great day, you know. From day to day I might win or might lose, and I might be happy or unhappy with my play, but today was good. It's great to have spent the week here with a lot of people that I know. One guy who asked me yesterday whether I remembered that I played against him. It was actually my first adult chess game in '99, so I remember like the opening and how he beat me and so on. So it's good to see a lot of chess fans here, young and old. I can see them through the glass wall now. So I would like to thank all of you for coming, for everybody for organizing, for Chess.com for hosting. Next year, as Michael said, will be a bit of a different venue, but I think it will be just as exciting. So I hope to see you guys back then.
Magnus, the fans have been awesome here. You know, every time you've entered the arena, you've taken your seat, that's when we see them go wild, rooting for you, cheering for you. Could you feel that energy? Were there moments when that motivated you to give your best?
Well, I always try and give my best, but you know, it's fun to see for sure, and I've been wanting that more in chess for a long time. So I encourage everybody to be, you know, as loud as you want at all times, and to enjoy this spectacle.
Yeah, it's been awesome just how far chess has come, becoming, you know, this big spectator sport with the live audience. And Magnus, this is your 5th Champions Chess Tour title. You've won every single edition since the very inception, since it was the Magnus Carlsen Chess Tour. Every year you win it. What makes you so unstoppable and so good at this?
No, honestly, I think that the format is quite suited to me, because it's I put a lot of pressure on in these matches, and to beat me in a tournament is very possible. To beat me in a match is quite a bit harder. And I think there have been some very good matches this year. I've lost to basically all of the guys who were here in the top 4. I think I've lost to all of them, to Jan, Maxime, and to Alireza as well. But I guess I'm more often than not able to get the better of them, and you know, I just enjoy it. I just enjoy these match formats a lot.
And we really enjoy watching you play your chess. And Magnus, over the last few days, despite getting the job done, you have been critical about the quality of your play sometimes. Today, it felt Flawless, I want to ask you, looking back at the entire Champions Chess Tour final, the last 5 days, any match that particularly stands out to you that you're extra proud of?
Oh, you know, as you said, I'm I'm always critical, but I think, well, far from flawless, I think the performance today was my best in these 5 days, and that obviously makes me feel pretty good that I end on a high note, show my best in the final when it counts. And you know, today's performance I'm happy with, so that's good.
We're happy to hear that. That was awesome. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, your homeboy, the winner of the Champions Chess Tour, Magnus Carlsen. And now, Michael, I request you to present the trophy. The winner of the Champions Chess Tour, world #1, Magnus Carlsen, does it again. And it's been so awesome having all of you join us, packed house here at our venue here every single day. Thank you so much for being an incredible audience, and a huge shout out to all our partners of the Champions Chess Tour who make this possible, and as well as our Chess.com Diamond members, all our premium members without whom this would not be possible. Thank you so much. Stay inspired. Keep playing chess. It's a wrap from us. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, goodbye from Oslo. And we're off.
Woo, here we go. Let's see.
In fact, this night even, I mean, there's so many things to calculate. It's a rapid game. You only have 6 minutes on your clock. And he's never backed down from a fight, though. That's why he's so popular.
Very aggressive, too, as well, with the H3 variations. As you see,
it's a very positional fight right now. That's likely to be the longest game of the round. But the game, he's going to drop his bishop back to defend it.
It's over.
Now,
oh my God.
Round.
It's over. What a game there.
Handshake.
Wouldn't bet on that move happening. But James, to your point, you bring out your knight, which is such a natural move in the position.
Armageddon, Magnus, it's a race against the clock as this game begins. Ultimately, when the dust settles, Black will be ahead by the exchange.
Resi there.
Magnus takes the win.
Wow. And Magnus in Armageddon takes 3 matches out of 3 today. Not the clean.
Real thorn in Black's own side here.
One of the coolest things I learned.
If this were online, this would be easy. But there we go. It's a handshake. Denis Lazavik triumphant.
Laz in his bag again. 3 out of 3. And game start.
He always plays with all his pieces. You know, get all your toys to the nursery.
You'll see immediately stop bopping. Immediately. He was jamming. Not no more.
And now there'll be a check once the white king moves away. He goes with the queen to the other side. And that's it. Magnus Carlsen resigns. First game in this round, right? So a huge bounce back.
He finds it.
And Denis reacts. A 1-move blunder.
There it is.
Magnus's draw claim gets rejected. And he's winning on the next move. And Maxime Vachier-Lagrave resigns. Lead in this match. The king steps in now, forcing the white king away, and that's it. It's handshakes. Levon with the win.
LeBron! He's back.
Hitting the G-pawn, it now slides over to the H1 square, and the H-pawn, it's helpless. Nothing's going to defend this one. The rook comes into the... He's still trying.
Yeah, he's trying. He's trying. Wow.
But I like how Alireza's knight, it keeps the king to defend that F-pawn, and that's it.
With this opening.
Speaking of wacky stuff, Denis Lazavik has just sacrificed an exchange.
Wow.
Missed the top, and he's still playing right now with the 2 minor pieces against the rook, and we have a result.
His face.
There it is, yeah. Great move.
Queen comes back. As you say, knight on G8, there's no checkmate.
That's likely to go on for a while, but favourite there to strike back and force Armageddon. Oh, Wesley So, in the meantime, though, shakes hands, accepts a match defeat. Ready for battle. Magnus starts with the white pieces.
E4, King's Pawn.
E4. Yan not cashing in. The top players aren't actually that materialistic. They tend to trust their opponents. They'd rather play with the initiative. I'm assuming he's going to bring his rook into play with gain of time.
Yeah.
What's a Norwegian way
It's like, yeah.
Just shout out to everyone that rarely wins. I think being solid here would make a lot of sense. I'm expecting your move now, Tanya. D5, strike out in the center before white is able to build a big pawn center over zone. Yeah, a draw in this game for Den. France against Germany, the Euro battle about to commence. Here we go.
Black pawn is now falling by force. You just don't have a way to defend it. And there's no way on earth that black ever loses that position.
Yes, he's restored the material balance, but look at the black king coming. Dennis resigns. Jan is in the semi-finals. A minimum of 25,000. If you go on and win the event, it's a whole different story. Huge money on the line. Money.
Ambition here, because if he keeps the queens on the board, I would be very tempted to do that. Give a check and keep the tension on. But a queen trade would essentially be a draw offer.
Kick the black king back. No checkmates for you. And handshake.
Wow. MVP. He's got it done.
It's going to be good. It's going to be lit. We've got 4 fantastic players with us, and I can't wait for the rest of the game. I think for Maxime, this might be a bit of a surprise, but also a relief that Magnus isn't going directly for his throw.
And once again, we see Jan Nepomniachtchi just playing confidently from the start.
Moves. If he finds it.
I think he has. That's the second move. And that's it. It was oof.
Oh, draw.
What
We both
happened?
saw the bar. Draw.
A big blunder by Alireza.
The X-ray vision of the black rook on the D2 knight is keeping things intact, but
This is some incredible form we are seeing by Jan Nepomniachtchi.
there we go.
Jan Nepomniachtchi moves on. Ali.
It's getting scary for black.
Oh my gosh!
He blundered me.
Oh my goodness!
Look at Magnus.
Oh my.
This is how the semi-finals is about to end.
Blundered me.
Magnus has seen this.
He didn't see
it. Oh my! What?
I'm done. I'm out. All right, y'all have a good one. All right, y'all.
Just
All
do a
right, check.
zigzag onto that b5 square if the checks follow, attacks the rook, attacks the f6 pawn in return.
Resignation.
Whoa!
Magnus Carlsen takes the win. He books his place in the final of the Champions Chess Tour.
And once again, it's Magnus versus Jan for the championship.
Let's go!
Good news.
And a big imbalance already on the board, right?
These two pieces.
He does take the bishop off the board.
2, rook c8, rook d2. I mean, it's possible, but that's crazy.
He does it!
Oh my goodness, Magnus out here going crazy, big dog. I was just playing.
Around the black king. He has to cut him off on the 6th rank here. But there we go. Checkmate imminent. Jan resigns. Magnus takes the first win. He might be dancing around. Look at his head go, listening to some music, but I think that's just to hide the
pain
error.
inside.
I mean, like that on the side, on the king side, he wants to go c4, c5 at some point.
Because white has the bishops after all, a frown from Jan Nepomniachtchi, but there must be a concrete reason, a specific reason for Magnus.
I don't care if the computer says there was something more
Capture now.
Rook e2.
Oh, there we go. It's a double attack, and Magnus takes a second win. He goes 2 points to 0 up. It's off the control, actually. And, yeah, you can use a bit of pattern recognition here. I do believe Magnus is
yet because of queen h3, so you see the fans there. Hey, what's up, guys?
This is a high-quality game. 99.5% accuracy by Nepomniachtchi so far. He's done.
And there are so many threats on the f7 pawn, the rook and the knight, and Jan finds the best move to stay alive in this game.
Oh, his king across. Flashy way of banking the draw.
Whoa. And a sigh of relief there. What a game.
It's a relatively open center. No pawns blocking things. So I think that is a gain for white. A small gain, at least.
The square in front of the pawn. You need that shelter for it to survive.
Now this black h-pawn is a real thorn, tying down the white king. The white rook cannot move. This game is going to end any moment.
Yep, there it is.
It's a draw. Okay, Magnus, in the meantime, improves his bishop.
Yeah, and this whole idea that we saw by Team Gukesh many times against the French in the World Championship, James, so fascinating. Yeah, trying to break free with that move f5. You could bring the rook into the attack. Rook g3, f4 is guarded, g7 on...
In these positions, never touch pawns on the side you're weaker. That's the advice. Will it backfire?
And look at Magnus, he's ready with the battery. The queen and the bishop is lined up against that hook that Jan... It's coming in next. He simply sidesteps. There's no attack on the queen. Knight g5.
And it's a handshake. Magnus Carlsen wins the 2024 Champions Chess Tour Finals.
Hopefully you will improve your level in the coming new year.
Uracha Manor, Jeff, Love, Nordari.
Fröhliche Festtage.
Улыбайтесь в новом году.
Не забывайте быть счастливыми. Не откладывайте жизнь на потом. Позвоните своим родителям. Скажите, что вы их любите. И пусть все у вас будет замечательно.
Bonne fête à tous, joyeux Noël et belle nouvelle année 2025.
Merry Christmas, everyone, and advance Happy New Year. Going to be a great 2025.
Желаю, чтобы все плохое и неудачное осталось в прошлом году, в уходящем, и было забыто, а Новый год приносил только радостные, веселые, счастливые события. Счастья вам, здоровья и удачи. Ура!
God jul til alle dere der hjemme som følger med på oss. Jeg håper dere får en fin tid sammen med deres familier, og at dere ikke går lei av meg før året er omme.